Good afternoon and welcome. We're glad you're joining us here today for our 3 p.m. March 9th, 2026 land use hearing. And we call this meeting to order. I invite you all to join us. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. We all had thank you for joining us for the Pledge of Allegiance. My name is Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shad-McNally, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. I welcome you. Joining me on the dais are my colleagues, Commissioner Kristen Stevens and Commissioner John Kafalis. Also, we have our County Attorney, Frank Haug, here, and we have some other folks from planning. I'm going to turn this over to Jenny Oxmaker to kind of talk about our procedures and how we proceed and to introduce the rest of our staff. Jenny, thank you. And then before we start public comment, I'm going to make a quick statement. Thank you.
Sounds good. Did you want to introduce the clerk?
Oh, yes, thank you. Out of sight and out of mind. Lindsay, Tracy, thank you. Also, I saw you on the camera stepping up, but thank you for our clerk and to the board for being here today, and that's Lindsay. Thank you very much, and proceed. Jenny?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joining me at the dais, we have Senior Planner Samantha Mott. We have County Planner Sam Lasher. We have Ryan Oswendell from our Planning Support Team. Across the way, we have Tracy Shambo and David Pringle from the Engineering Department, and Ashton Brodall and Leah Snyder from our Health Department. With that, we respectfully request that all members of the audience silence their electronic devices. Please help yourself to a copy of the agenda and hearing procedure instructions, which are located on the wall right by the door here, or if you're joining us online, you can find that at larimer.gov/BOCC/commissioners-meetings. Please wait to speak until you're recognized by the chair. Please maintain civility, refraining from audience applause, comments, or disruptions, whether positive or negative. Please make all comments to the Board of County Commissioners from the podium. A portable microphone is available as needed. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments and provide the spelling of your name if it's unique. Please speak directly into the microphone so that remote participants may hear. The microphone on the podium can be repositioned to best capture your testimony. Questions may be asked during your testimony but will not be answered until public comment is closed and the rebuttal has begun. Upon request, we do have assisted listening devices for the hearing impaired. For those of you on Zoom, you will be muted until you're recognized by the chair. If an online attendee wishes to speak or request a consent item to be removed, please use the raise your hand function on the Zoom control bar or *9 on your phone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate all that information, and thank you all for the work you do. Before we start our public hearing discussion, and for me to judge how much time we need for public comment, could anyone in the room, if you're planning on doing public comment today, could you raise your hand? Okay. 9. Okay, that doesn't mean I'm holding you to it or not to it. If you needed to add or you're so moved, I just needed to know if I had 30 or if I had 2. So that helps me out. Oh, there's another. Okay. So I think we'll go ahead and stick with the 3 minutes. But if we get to be 30, 40 people asking for public comment, then we'll probably, unless you want to be here for 2 hours for public comment, which I'm all for it, but we might shorten that a little bit. So we'll make Mr. County Attorney, can I change that when I if we get to that, or should I make that decision now about 2 or 3 minutes?
You can, it's up to you. I mean, it's probably better to just make sure everybody knows what the expectation is and then stick to that.
Great. Well, I asked that question and it looks like maybe we can accommodate the 3, but if it all of a sudden the room fills up, and we might need to think about that. So, all right, thank you very much. Okay, so we have 2 items on our public hearing discussion items today. We have the first will be the Hanson Appeal, file number 25-GNR L0580, and then we also have the Mountain Whitewater and Paddlers Pub Appeal. Commissioner, that's okay. Let me repeat that. The second item will be the Mountain Whitewater and Paddlers Pub Appeal, file number 25-GNRL 0583. And those are the only two items, both public hearing discussion items on the agenda. So just so you make sure you're in the right spot today. So with that, we'll start with the first one, the Hanson Appeal. And Samantha Lasher, I'm assuming you're proceeding. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon, everybody. Once again, my name is Samantha Lasher, and I will be presenting the Hanson Appeal, file number 25-GNRL 0580. Please note that this item was tabled from the January 26th land use hearing. There are 3 subject properties that are part of this application. They are located at 1057 Griffith Court, 1071 Griffith Court, and 1083 Alpaca Farm Way. All 3 properties are located in Estes Park, Colorado, all within the Estes Valley, and they are located approximately 0.2 miles south of the intersection of Riverside Drive and Mary's Lake Road. The applicant and the owner for all 3 properties is Seth Hanson, and he is here with us today in person. All 3 properties are zoned EVA1, which is Estes Valley Low Intensity Accommodations. All 3 properties are approximately a half acre in size, and each of the 3 properties has 1 duplex. The request before you all today is an appeal to Article 335B2A of the Land Use Code, which currently states that only 1 short-term rental is permitted per property. So this is an appeal to allow for more than 1 short-term rental on each of these 3 properties. As I mentioned before, each property contains 1 duplex for a total of 3 duplexes and 6 individual units. Each of those units has a separate address, as I noted on the previous slides on the map. 3 of those 6 units, 1 on each property, already have or are currently in process to receive short-term rental licenses. So going through each property individually, 1055 Griffith Court received STR approval or short-term rental approval for 6 guests a few years ago, so therefore 1057 is part of this appeal. 1073 Griffith is in process currently to receive a short-term rental license for 8 guests, so therefore 1071 is part of this appeal. And lastly, 1085 Alpaca Farm Way received approval for 8 guests a few years ago, so therefore 1083 is part of this appeal. Please note that if this appeal application is approved, site plan review approval is required for each of the 3 new proposed short-term rentals prior to licenses being issued. This application was sent out to 49 properties within 500 feet. To date, staff has received 3 community member comments in opposition to the request, as well as 4 comments in support of the request. 6 of the 7 comments are contained in Attachment D of the packet, and 1 is contained within the memo that was provided to you all today. The application was also referred out to various referral agencies for their comments. Of those who were notified, 6 agencies listed on the screen did provide written comments as provided in Attachment C of the packet, and 6 agencies who were notified did not provide comments as listed here. Ultimately, no referral agencies had any concerns with the proposal. So when considering whether to approve an appeal to deviate from standards or requirements of the code, the county commissioners must consider the following 5 review criteria found in Article 672B5 of the Land Use Code. Staff has determined that all 5 criterion have been met, which have been addressed in the staff report. And therefore, the Development Services team recommends approval of the Hanson Appeal subject to the following 2 conditions as listed in the staff report. And we do have a suggested motion slide on the screen for the county commissioners to consider. Thank you, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Samantha. Colleagues, do you have any questions at this time right now? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for being here. I think I know the answer to this, Samantha, but I just wanted to make sure the matter before us is to whether or not to approve this appeal to be able to allow for more than 1 short-term rental on a property. But ultimately, if that appeal moves forward, the applicant will still need to go through a site plan review or go through the process of getting those duplexes inspected and making sure they're up to code.
Yes, Commissioner, you are correct.
Oh, that's a very succinct answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. I think I'll hold my questions until after the applicant's presentation and public comment. So, Commissioner Stevens, I just want to double check you didn't have any questions. Okay. So now we'll invite the applicant up to the podium. Mr. Hanson, you'll have 10 minutes to present.
Good afternoon. All right. Thank you for allowing me to present. Forgive my nerves. I don't speak in public too often. And Samantha, thank you for the presentation. It was very good. So I bought this property in 2018 prior to the dissolution of the IGA. So that was the separation between the town of Estes Park and the county. And so I was alongside with the county for many years. That was such a mess. I think we all would agree that that was a nightmare to kind of figure out how to implement code to the Estes Valley on behalf of the county. And so I actually was involved on the front of that with the planners, helping advocate for here's code that I think we need to make sure that we adopt. And some of those were adopted. And then after the fact, things that were kind of what I call lost in the shuffle, because, that was a very complicated situation. I brought to the attention of the county, there's some things that I think we need to fix. And over the last, few years, the county actually has made some changes, which I very much appreciate. So one of those changes would be, for many, many years, we fought and advocated in the town of Estes Park for the ability to do a townhome subdivision. That was all about being affordable, helping with affordable communities. And that was not one of those things that got translated over to the county. And the county, and this was many years ago, saw that and fixed it. So we now can do townhome subdivisions, which is great. So that's an example where I think some things got lost in the shuffle and they fixed. I say all that to say that this also is one of those things as well. And so my appeal is just to simply return my zoning regarding this one facet back to what it was when it was with the town of Estes Park. And this is still how the town of Estes Park does conduct their A1 zoning. They allow more than one short-term rental per property, and that's historically how they've used it. And I'm asking to return back to the historical use. And if it's not approved, then I would be the only property in the Estes Valley that would not be allowed in the A1 district to have more than one short-term rental per property. So during all that time, short-term rentals have been a big buzz, and I'm very sensitive to that. I'm a realtor, and much to the chagrin of my colleagues, I have also advocated for restrictions in residential districts. I share that to you because I want to share with you that I think residential should be treated differently than commercial districts. So my argument is this is a commercial district, and as such, we should do things to promote the use of the accommodations district. Accommodations is the number one industry in Estes Valley, and people rely on that for their work. If this was a residential district, then no, I would agree that this probably doesn't apply because it could ruin the character of a residential neighborhood. There's a map before you that I think was passed out. Did the map get passed out?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Yes, if you can just reference that real quick. Shaded in the light purple, or it turned out a little bit gray, that is all of the A1 zoning around me. There's approximately 80 acres of A1 zoning. Okay, I have 1.5 acres of that 80. There's also about 20 short-term rentals around me. This is very much a commercial district. This is very much an accommodations district. So when this was zoned that way more than 20 years ago, the intent was for this area to be an accommodations zone district. Okay, so I'm one of many, many people that are doing short-term rentals, and I'm also one of, there's already several properties that have multiple rentals per property. So it's very consistent. My point is very consistent with what's already in the neighborhood. There's only 2% of all the land mass in Estes Valley that is zoned A1. So I would argue to not allow it would be not allowing the very limited A1 zoning that we have in the valley to be used in this proper way. I also want to point out to you that I'm pretty much surrounded by A1 zoning, but also I border a very busy road. So when you read the code for A1, the intent is for it to be on the higher traveled corridors of Estes Park, and this very much adheres to that as well. So, what else can I share? That's pretty much all I have in my notes. Hopefully, I did a decent job. I'm happy to field any questions that anyone has about my project here.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. You have 5 more minutes. Just want to make sure you don't want to take advantage of any of your other time.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I think I'm good.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll stop you with your presentation. We'll see if my colleagues have questions. I know I have a couple. Commissioner Stevens,
I don't have any at this time, thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Okay, you get me.
Can I make one point, actually? I just came
Yeah.
to my...
Maybe you can do that in your rebuttal.
Fair enough.
Okay, thank you. Trying to trade everyone. I have questions for you, sir.
Okay, very good.
So,
yeah, you bet.
Yeah, so you have me. So, I'm curious, when you talked about, I was there in the room before I became commissioner, so I know the whole journey of the IGA and dissolution and what it is now. And so a couple comments I want to make is that we know when we did redo these standards and we had the IGA, these were all considered. And so these aren't something that's left over. There was new short-term rental standards. And I understand where things were. But back in 2018, that subdivision and those properties, weren't they first considered when you talked about affordable? They were supposed to be like workforce housing and housing for workers. And as I understand it, there was something in the comments too from our staff, and that's what it was. And I went back and looked into that. It seemed like those were supposed to be for workforce housing and affordable housing for people who worked in the Estes Valley.
No, so I don't know where that comes from. That's not from me. I've thought a lot about that. So I've been developing, so while I'm a realtor, that's what I do full time. I call it moonlighting as a developer. In 22 years I've been in Estes, I've built more affordable housing than any developer. This was never intended, as far as I'm concerned. The only place I think it could have come from is before I bought the property, the Switzers, who are to my west, I believe they approached the town and were looking at a rezone. And they got such pushback from the neighbors, they backed off that. So they were looking to rezone it to what's called RM. That's a multifamily. And they could have packed in, there's it could have been up to 60 units in there. And they backed off because the neighbors didn't want it.
Okay. My next question, and keep talking about the A1 being a commercial. So are these properties in their Texas commercial or is residential?
They're residential.
So their property tax is residential, not commercial, but you talk about it being a commercial zone, but actually their tax is residential.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that's the way it is. I believe personally that's probably going to change in the future, but as of today, yes.
Okay. Also, when you talk about the 2%, a lot of the things are some of that A1 is there's the A1 for the town and A1 for the county for unincorporated parts. And so, are you saying that you think that that the two should be aligned and have the same zoning, or just kind of retroactively go back? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, I actually do think there should be exact alignment in issues like this. I was actually sad to see the parting of ways, because I think it's run very well, but the county has picked up the pieces and actually done quite well implementing their own code. But I think on these type of issues for the public at large, so as a realtor, I'm probably one of the few that knows the distinctions. And so part of our job as realtors is to educate. It's tough to educate when, like, literally the county line is a stone's throw from my property. You have two different standards. That just gets confusing to the public. So yes, I do think on an issue like this, it should be aligned, yes.
Well, someone lives in unincorporated and can throw rocks across to multiple line. I understand what you're saying. There's a little different, but I do agree. Our staff are amazing and done a phenomenal job in implementing our Larimer County code, and we are actually, I think, one of the exemplars in the state. So, and I think it has been that way for a while. So, if no other questions, I'll have you sit down, and then we'll go on to public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so for this first public comment will only be for this item on number 1. So can you raise your hand if you're looking to make a comment on the first item? Okay. Samantha, can you let me know? I'm sorry. Ryan, can you let me know if there's anybody online who'd like to make public comment?
Yes, if anyone who would like to speak on this item. Okay, we do have one hand raised. Joan Harper, you have permission to speak. Please unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Mr. Harper, you'll have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Or Ms.
Okay.
Harper, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Joan Hooper. I live at 1270 Rangeview Road in Estes Park. That would be in unincorporated Larimer County in the Estes Valley. And I would like to speak against this. My reason is that this neighborhood, which is part of where I live on the west end of town, it is a residential neighborhood. I'm a little perplexed at why it's zoned as A1 because if you look at what's built in there, it's all residential housing, some duplex, a lot of single family. If you look at what's around it, it's all residential housing. And I don't feel that it's accurate to call it either a commercial district or even a lodging district because the way it is actually in use is a residential neighborhood. And so I feel like it's inappropriate to give an exception for the density of short-term rentals, which is supposed to be protecting residential neighborhoods, in neighborhood which is in fact residential. And the second thing I would like to raise is that the Estes Valley is in desperate need of housing for residents, for workforce. It is oversupplied with lodgings for visitors, and that is both short-term rentals and hotel-style lodgings. Evidence for this would be things like our occupancy rates, which are dismal, and also the nightly rates that the short-term rentals actually get, which is market adjusted for demand. And those rates are also appallingly low. And so I would say that the valley needs residential housing, not short-term rentals, and that the neighborhood needs less short-term rentals so that it can preserve its integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your public comment. Can we double check to make sure there's anyone else?
If anyone else would like to speak on this item, please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. We have no other hands raised.
Thank you. I appreciate that support. So without any other last call in the audience, okay, we'll close public comment. After public comment, we do give the applicant 5-minute rebuttal. So if you'd like to come up to the podium, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. So my first remark would be, I looked up where she lives. She lives about a mile away from me. That's nowhere near my property. It doesn't mean she can't weigh in. Of course she can. But I know, I'm a realtor. I know her property very well. That's a residential area. I would agree with her. Maybe she's confused on where this is, but this is, as I've demonstrated, up and down Marys Lake Road for a third of the mile. It's all accommodations district. You have properties with little tiny cabins that are all accommodations. 200 feet from me, I've got a property with little tiny cabins, multiple cabins on one property, all accommodations. I think this commission just approved next door to me 3 cabins that are going to be built right next door to me, accommodations. So it's actually an accommodations area. Perhaps there's some confusion there. As far as affordable housing, again, that's something I've been on the forefront, having as a private party built more than anybody. It's very much at the heart of who I am. I've worked with Habitat for Humanity. But I'll say this, the town and county have stood tall, and they're fixing this. The housing authority is land banking right now. Directly across the street from my property, there's probably going to be apartment complexes built with affordable housing. This is across Marys Lake Road. They bought about 10 acres there. It's great, but they're land banking a ton of properties to fix that problem. there may not be as big a problem as we think, because there's been a lot of apartments built. There's one on Highway 7 that is actually only about 50% occupied. They've been trying to lease it for over a couple of years now, and they're struggling, very much struggling. So, but I don't know how that relates to my property, but I did want to weigh in because it's very much at my heart. So those are just a couple of comments. The last comment I'll make is the one I wanted to share is there were 3 of my neighbors that are in opposition. And here's where I struggle. As a realtor, when I work with clients, I believe it's incumbent upon me and my client to understand where we're buying. All of my neighbors that opposed bought when it was zoned A1. Okay? To buy in a commercial accommodations district and expect it not to perform that way is similar to like buying by a train track and not wanting the train to run. Okay, I just have a property under contract right now with some first-time home buyers, great clients, and they're buying that back into a power plant. I advise them, hey, there's a power plant. Let's research, make sure that's what you want. That will affect your resale ultimately. But that's my job. So when they bought their properties, when it was zoned A1, someone dropped the ball, is what I'm trying to say. Why should I be held victim to that? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your rebuttal. We'll close rebuttal now. Colleagues, I'll see if you have any questions for staff or for the applicant, Commissioner Kafalis. No? Ready to go on deliberations? Yes? Yep. Okay. We'll start with Commissioner Kafalis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Seth Hanson. I appreciate your presentation. I think this graphic, this map that you showed us is very helpful based on the information at hand and the recommendations of our development services team with the conditions of approval and the fact that we are to make decisions as objectively as possible based on the review criteria, which in reviewing the packet and listening to the presentation from Samantha, the team believes that those review criteria indeed have been met. Therefore, I will be supporting this appeal. You still have a bunch of other steps to get through. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kafalis. Commissioner Stevens.
Yes, thank you to the applicant and for the community member that spoke in opposition. I will also be supporting this appeal on the recommendation of staff, but also because I do believe that this is an area that promotes lodging uses. As was stated, there's quite a bit of lodging around this area, multiple cabins, and so, to me, it is important to respect the zoning that's in place and that has historically been in place. And so I will support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. I struggled with this one because we are approving so many appeals on one application, and I think it is kind of a struggle when this is the only area really that we have in the county that has accommodation zoning. And it's kind of a complex deal, and we have a lot of complexities there. I still had concerns about approval of the appeal will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or property values in the neighborhood. And there has been some neighbors, whether they're a mile away or the applicant feels that they bought their house, maybe they didn't have all the information. There's still impacts on neighborhoods with that. And I know these are right on kind of a busy road. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause because it's so close to the border, but also these are already in one of the properties is already got a short-term rental and they're attached. And so really they're kind of, to me, the same kind of building on the same property. So I can see that kind of the people that are impacted are short-term rentals that are on either side and behind. So with that being said, I still think that when this first was being built, I remember very clearly the discussion about short affordable housing. So I really feel I cannot, since my concern of the approval of the appeal would be detrimental to property values, and listening to folks, and also the applicant, but mostly listening to staff, the referral agencies, I reluctantly will say that I feel like that criterion has been met. So I'll have to join my colleagues reluctantly. I'm not really thrilled about the density increasing in that area, but I will support this application going forward. Okay, so Commissioner Stevens, I'll let you make that motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Hanson Appeal, file number 25 GNRL 0580, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Any further discussion?
Yes, actually.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yeah, thank you. I just, I appreciate Commissioner Stevens' comments. I neglected to acknowledge the person who offered testimony in opposition. I just wanted to express my gratitude for that person taking the time to express their opinion. I also want to reinforce I think one of the most important points, and that is that the zoning for this area, Estes Valley accommodations, low intensity, this is an appropriate zoning for this type of development, and that just further justifies, in my mind, the approval of the appeal. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I think you made a point about low intensity accommodations. I still think that is, when we get multiple things on one, it's starting to get a little dense. And again, thank you to the person who called in. I really think I heard you, and I think your points are valid, and it is a residential neighborhood. So thank you for that. So there's you made that motion, Commissioner Stevens, and there's no more further discussion. Commissioner Gonzalez, you have anything else you'd like to add?
Nope.
Okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we'll move on. Okay. So we move on to our second item, which is the Mountain Whitewater and Paddlers Pub Appeal, file number 25-GNRL 0583. Since the room has filled up, since this one is left, I'm assuming you're all here to do public comment, so we are going to shorten it to 2 minutes. You'll thank me later. And so, trust me, after we've all sat through 3 hours of public comment, I actually sat through 4 hours the other day, but it's important we hear from all of you. Public comment is very, very important. So we're going to shorten that all to 2 minutes. Just want to announce that at the beginning. And so let's go ahead and we'll move on to starting in this next item. Samantha Mott, thank you for your work here, and we're ready for your presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, I'm Samantha Mott, Senior Planner with Larimer County Planning. And the item before you now is the Mountain Whitewater and Paddlers Pub Appeal, file number 25-GNRL 0583. The property is located at 1329 US Highway 287 in Fort Collins. It's located on the south side of Highway 287, approximately a half mile west of North Shield Street. The applicant is Lindsay Modisette. The property owner is Bamboo Descents, LLC. The property was rezoned to PD plan development to allow for commercial uses. The lot size is approximately 12.88 acres. The access comes directly off of Highway 287, and the existing use is a rafting business, and an accessory use is a bar and tavern for rafting patrons. This request is an appeal to Article 7 of the Land Use Code regarding special event requirements to allow more than 3 events in a calendar year and to allow more than 1 event in a calendar month. The current use of the property, as I mentioned, is a rafting business, and the bar tavern is currently allowed for rafting patrons only. As part of the appeal, as I mentioned, is for special event regulations, but as you can see in the applicant's project description, it's to allow the bar tavern to be open to the general public along with some music events for a total of 30 days, only on Fridays and Sundays from May 29th to September 6th, for a maximum of 300 people. And I should mention that they're only requesting 30 days, which is the limit of the number of special event days in a calendar year, so they're not exceeding that 30 days. If this application is approved, the applicant will have to seek approval through the special event permit process. The application was sent out to community members within 500 feet. It was approximately 28 properties, and we did receive 6 community member comments in support, or 6 community member comments were received. I think 2 were in the original report, 2 came in as an addendum, and then 2 as a memo. There's been no opposition expressed towards this application at this time. Referral agency comments. This was sent to 3 referral agencies, and they all provided comments. The Larimer County Engineering Department didn't indicate any concerns. Just if the appeal is approved, they'd have to apply for special event permits. Larimer County Code Compliance Division noted no violations, no code compliance cases, and as far as they're aware, there have been no complaints on this property. And then the Larimer County Health Department did have some items of concern and listed some conditions of approval which are proposed with this application as conditions of approval. So I believe the Health Department concerns haven't been addressed with those conditions of approval. The review criteria for an appeal is found in Article 672B5 in the Land Use Code. Staff has responded to that review criteria in the staff report and has found it to meet all that criteria. Staff is recommending approval of this request with a total of 10 conditions of approval that are found in the packet. I also can pull those up. I have them in the PowerPoint. And staff also has a suggested motion of approval. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Samantha. I now have questions, but I see Commissioner Stevens' hands is raised. Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, Samantha, can you repeat they would be allowed to have events Friday and Sunday or Friday through Sunday?
They're only requesting Friday and Sundays, not Saturdays. If I said through Sunday, my apologies.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, thank you. I'm good.
Commissioner Kafalis, do you have questions? Okay, I have some questions. First, can you go back and clarify? I want to make sure I heard you correctly about the 10 conditions. You said there was one that they had not met yet, or would, or what? Can you had stated that? Can you repeat that again?
If you're talking about the special event permit regulations, so they're appealing, the regulations state that you can only have 3 special event permits, that you can only have one, let me go back and pull it up. You can only have one event in a calendar month for a total of 30 days in a calendar year. They're not exceeding the 30 days in a calendar year. Their total of days they're proposing of Fridays and Sundays are only 30 days.
Okay. I appreciate that. But I thought you said something about the health department or something.
You're correct. The health department in their comment referral letter indicated some items of concern. And I know Leah Schneider is here with the health department, but she proposed if planning was inclined to recommend approval, and if the commissioners were inclined to approve this, I think she had 8 suggested conditions of approval. So we made those the conditions of approval, and then planning staff or the development services team had 2 additional conditions. So those have all been included.
Okay, so those are all included. And before I go to my next question for you, just to ask if Ms. Schneider had anything she wanted to add to that.
Most of those conditions of approval that are on there are typical of our special event approvals because it just outlines their hours of operation, portable potties, maintaining the noise ordinance, things like that. They get that on their special event permit every summer.
Thank you, Ms. Schneider. I appreciate that. So back to you, Samantha. I had a question about the conditional approval number 4.
I have that pulled up.
Okay, there it is.
Sorry.
So it says no non-rafting patrons allowed on site unless during the special event days and hours of Friday after 4 p.m. and Sunday after 2 p.m. for those days. I understand why that's there. How are we going to enforce that or understand if that's happening?
That's a great question. I don't believe that anybody here is here from co-compliance. And I'm,
So I'll ask the attorney real quick,
Yeah.
because Mr. Hag, Frank, you always caution us adding conditions of approval that'll be hard to enforce, but I understand why, and I think that's a really important condition to have. But we've had conversations about how we measure, how we do this, and I think that's important because it could expand the use than what it's supposed to be for. So I'm wondering your thoughts on that, sir.
I'm wondering, one way to maybe do it is, I think with other special events, they have to give us a cap on how many people they are going to have. And so I don't know how you're going to tell, other than going up and asking people and saying, are you a rafter or are you not a rafter? I don't know how you would be able to know that. You do have the ability to put a cap on how many people, or you could say, so you could do it that way, or for each event, require them to talk about how many people are going to be there. So other than that, I'm not sure how you would be able to enforce that or no.
Well, I was thinking if you're a rafter bait, you have a little tag on your wrist and can't go unless you have the tag, but then we still don't know how that enforced. So, I'm just curious about that. So
these events are hard to regulate during the event. And so the basic idea is try to know ahead of time who's going to be there and how many people are going to be there.
okay, so I'm just trying to get ahead of this, and I'm going to add something onto your hand. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I can see this being, and this is not anything about this business. I'm talking about other things that we've had issues with, where they said, 100 end up being 1,000. And I don't think I'm exaggerating there because that happened. So I just wanted to say, since we're still developing some consequences for folks who violate the amount of people that are allowed or not allowed, and how this works in following the conditions of approval, and since there is kind of a history of not getting all the conditions of approval for other things done with this history, that's the reason also I'm asking, because I just felt like it's better to set expectations ahead of time and be clear before we, and set people up for success before we have conflicts.
Yeah, the only other thing is, I don't know if it's in there or not, but we could add something that says if you say you're going to have 300 and we go out there and there's 1,000, there's a process to revoke the permission to continue to have those events.
Yeah. And so, is that a number you have? How many paddlers do they have?
I believe there is a limit in the special exception as to how many patrons can be there. And I know with their proposal for the special event permits, they propose to have a maximum of 300 people. I guess what I was going to, and I can look at the special event total, but what I wanted to say is that I think condition number 4, like if we didn't have condition number 4 and this got approved, they could apply for their special events for those specific hours. This, which still probably has that same enforcement issue. I think the intent of this number 4 was just to say that, there's the limited hours for those special events, and the non-rafting patrons are not just allowed to be there kind of, even if the music's not there. They're kind of to put a restriction on that. I get what you're saying. I just wanted to make sure it was clear, and I just kind of, because I saw that and I was thinking, okay, I see how these all fit together, but I just wanted to make sure, setting up for not any issues with enforcement. And if I may speak to that, in this specific request, we did put a condition of approval if the commissioners are inclined to approve this, that it's just for the year 2026. And one of those reasons is that our special event permits are currently under evaluation to be amended. And those are planned to go into effect January 1st of 2027. And we are looking at including kind of some language on penalties and enforcement, and so we're looking at, we don't have that figured out yet, but that is something that we'd be looking at including. There is some language, but I don't know that it's very specific currently. So we're looking at kind of building that stronger for the future code amendments.
Yeah, I know we've been having some good conversations about that. So that was my next question was, be confirmed that it is for just a year, because they are changing. And so I wanted to make sure that was clear. And then is it, and this is a question again for Frank, do we add language in it since we don't have an enforcement mechanism for if that, since there's 30 days total and there's gonna be lots of them, and let's say the first, I'm not saying they are, but I just feel like it could be I want to make, like I said, I'm trying to set everybody up for success. So if we put in a restriction, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I'd much rather do this and maybe let the folks in the audience just understand kind of the complexities of this.
Yeah, I don't see one in there currently, but we could add a condition 11 that just says if the applicant violates the conditions of the permit, then the Board of County Commissioners can revoke the permission to hold future events.
Okay, thank you. So maybe you guys kind of ponder that as we're talking. Go ahead, Samantha, thanks.
I am looking in our land use code right now, and Article 710.3 does talk about suspension and revocation of a permit. And then the director may suspend or revoke a special event permit for violation of any provision of this section. So there is some language in there that allows for it.
But maybe just clear it in the appeal as well, because, the appeal might get folks thinking that, I'm just wondering if we should make it clear. So I'm just trying to be clear. So I'll let you all ponder that while we move forward. Any other questions, colleagues? Commissioner Stevens.
Can you repeat, have they had any code violations in the past?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Code complaints indicated no building violations, no code complaints cases, and they weren't aware of any complaints.
Yeah, so we're not basing some of this questioning on the fact that there have been these problems here, right? I'm just
Nothing based on neighbor complaints or anything like that. No.
No, I'm not saying they ever had. I'm just I'm talking about there was conditions of approval that hadn't been met, and the approval had expired because they all didn't get met. That's only the reason of my question. So, okay. We'll go ahead and move forward with the applicant coming up to do the presentation. You'd have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today, Commissioners. We appreciate your time and attention to our small business needs and challenges in Larimer County. My name is Lindsay Modisett. I am co-owner with my husband of Mountain Whitewater and Paddler's Pub. We are here today to discuss a couple of issues that have been paramount and at times detrimental to our success as a small business in Larimer County. First, I would like to start by saying we are appreciative of the Larimer County staff's recommendations for approval of our appeal to the Special Events Code. With that being said, we adamantly and vehemently protest the conditions that have been attached to it, particularly number 3, 4, and 5. And I will explain all that right now. Agreeing to those is agreeing to close our business within 6 months. The rest of the conditions we have adhered to every single operating day before and will continue to do so. These new conditions will certainly lead to the demise of our seasonal micro business that we've cultivated for 27 years due to the hardship they would impose on us financially and for things that have been settled or case closed for nearly 2 decades. First, a brief history. Brad and I have experienced it. Brad bought the exclusive rafting permit in 2000 and moved operations from Boulder County to Larimer County to be closer to the river. After considering several properties within Larimer County, we found the perfect spot at our current location at 1329 North US Highway 287. At the time, several genres of businesses had been running out of the location illegally for the previous 30 years. Brad went to the county and stated that before he would buy it, he wanted it to be legal in the county's eyes. The county decided that rafting wasn't a legitimate business, so we couldn't go for commercial zoning at the time. We had to do a special exception because it was a much harder process to complete. We did that. We went through everything. The only conditions of approval at that time were a site plan and a parking lot repaving or paving. And we successfully completed those things to our knowledge, and we started operations in 2001. Within the special exception, it is noted that we will be using our existing septic system in the existing building and supplemental porta potties. The site plan apparently went missing sometime between that and 2007, and the county opened up an investigation into Mountain Whitewater and a bunch of other businesses in the area. Mountain Whitewater was found to be the only one without an issue, and therefore the case was officially closed. There was never a distinction in that original approval that we would have non-rafters versus rafters. That wasn't even in the language. We did say how many people we intended to take rafting at that time, but there was never any indication on if anybody over that, because we consistently have family members, other people, bus drivers, teachers, other people that frequent our land at that time. This is where we adamantly oppose number 5. We have a functioning septic system, and we have always supplemented porta potties as do several existing businesses in Larimer County. We have used these bathrooms and transient units for 27 years and never had a single incident. We've never had any sort of an sanitary issue, as we have always maintained extremely clean bathrooms and always employed a professional company to pump out the facilities. In 2009, we approached the county to add a liquor license to our existing rafting operations and how we could do that legally. We were concerned with how volatile Mother Nature could be and wanted to protect ourselves in the event the River Canyon is closed for any reason. Our entire income would be completely decimated. They informed us there were 2 options, a club license or a public license. Club license would only be served to rafting guests. A public license would be served, we had to prove that we would serve the public. The staff at the time strongly encouraged us to go the public route because there were many more checks and balances. There were neighborhood meetings. We had to do a survey of our neighbors within a 9-mile radius. We had to do 2 detailed site plans, which we did, and completed those successfully. We had 2 hours long walkthrough with the Larimer County staff where we showed them the building facilities, the restroom facilities, what a non-rafter versus a rafter would do when they came to the pub, because rafters can't drink before their rafting trip. And we walked around the alcohol premises and showed them everything that we would do on any given day. Where the bars would be located, all of it. The surveys of the public need were a resounding success, and in 2011 we were granted our liquor license. Condition number 4 that has been placed upon us would immediately revoke our public liquor license. We have to serve the public. That is a requirement of our state-issued liquor license, and it always has been. There's never been anything otherwise stated in all of this time. And besides that, what, as we were talking about before I came up here, what even separates a rafter versus a non-rafter? We've taken a quarter of Fort Collins rafting to this day. Moving on, we added music that same year on Fridays and Sundays, and it became a much beloved, low-key gathering of families that enjoyed a beautiful evening in Larimer County. Most patrons were gone before dark. Our local rafting guests skyrocketed as they would come and experience the pub and then bring their friends and family rafting. Before the pub, nobody even knew that there was rafting in Fort Collins. Most people went all the way down to Buena Vista to spend their tourism dollars. In 2012, the unthinkable happened. The worst fire in Colorado history started on our river, and we were closed for 6 weeks of our operating season. Thankfully, we had the pub and live music for them to come out and support us any way they could. Buying a beer and wine was not even close to covering our operating costs for that year, but we were still able to open our doors the next year. The next few years saw many natural disasters, and the canyon closed due to car accidents, Fisher tuber accidents, 5 different catastrophic natural disasters, and a global pandemic that completely closed or severely impacted our operations in the canyon. The pub, with music, food, and food trucks, became a haven for all of us, including everyone around our community. We have never had a complaint about our pub, not one in 17 years. We never had an incident at the pub, a drunken disorderly, the sheriff called for any reason related to our business, or we've never operated outside of our approvals. As you are aware, this whole area is a federally designated blight zone, and we've tried to improve that. We've never had a noise violation, a traffic violation, a wastewater issue, nothing. In 2014, Larimer County came to us and told us that we could not use the building anymore for rafting operations, but we could still use the restrooms located inside. We just had to put automatic door closers on them. We did. Then they also said we could not use the existing bar site as it was. And in that Larimer County worker's interpretation, the Larimer County worker at the time, she informed us we could use a lawn chair and a tent and a clipboard for operations. We asked if we could erect a tent, and she said yes. So we put up the next year, we put up a 30 by 50 circus tent and have used that ever since for rafting and pub operations. In 2015, Larimer County implemented a new special events policy. This policy changed for doing special events 8 different times in the ensuing 10 years and was really just a blanket policy to keep somebody from in a neighborhood from doing a bunch of events. It didn't have anything to do with our commercially operated business for 15 years. After our second round of natural disasters, we became concerned about the volatility of our incredibly short operating season for the pub and rafting. It is 100 days if we're lucky. So we asked the county how we might make this merry-go-round stop and be allowed to extend our season both sides of the true rafting season. They told us we had to build facilities, including bringing sewer up to the property to make us legitimate. We spent 10 years trying to do that with 3 different complete county processes to try to expand enough to be able to afford the catastrophic amount that bringing the sewer from 7,000 feet away would cost. It is $4 million before we even put a shovel in the ground. We have tried 3 times. We failed 3 times. We have never operated outside of our approval, the original special exception approval and the liquor license approval. After 10 years of absolutely shredding our savings, we have come to the conclusion that it is absolutely untenable financially to do any of those projects. Larimer County condition number 5 says we cannot use our existing options anymore for wastewater. The existing septic system that we have never had a problem with, and the supplemental porta potties. We do not have any other tenable options without facing bankruptcy. I don't enjoy using porta potties either, but every time I run a half marathon, use the canyon, patronize a myriad of similar businesses in Larimer County, small businesses that operate that way.
And I apologize, we're out of time. Can you just wrap up with a statement, please?
Yep.
Thank you. And there'll be, your 5 minutes for rebuttal, so
Okay.
just thank you.
Okay, we are a company of 27 years that are in good standing and have given a ton of things back to Larimer County. We are just asking to run our business the same way that we have, all under the legality of what we've already been approved for. We have never operated outside of that.
So I'm sorry, so I apologize. So thank you. We'll have you have us, unless there's questions, colleagues, you have right now for the applicant. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you. And thank you, Lindsay. Are you suggesting that 3 of the conditions of approval, 3, 4, and 5, are problematic? And if so, could you elaborate further?
Yes, definitely. So we cannot afford to bring sewer up. We just can't. There's nothing we can do. And Larimer County, in their comments, said that if this approval was successful or unsuccessful, we had to start the process of building new facilities and bringing sewer up by the end, within 6 months. And we cannot do that. So we're asking that if we can waive that, because we can't possibly financially maintain that. And also, as far as non-rafting versus rafting patrons, that would put us in jeopardy of our state liquor license. We have always had non-rafting patrons. That's never been a question of if or when. Since 2001, there's never been any of that. Now, that being said, the last 10 years, when we've been doing the special events, so we've in how we adhere to the number, not go over like you were asking at the beginning. We've never gone over that, ever. We take a counter, whatever we've asked for the specific special events. We've never gone over that, therefore we've never been in violation. So for the last 12 years that we've been doing the special events policy the way they wanted to do it, or I guess 11 years, we've always adhered to what we said we were going to do and never went outside of that.
Commissioner Gonzalez, you have another question?
Yes. So, in your comments, you mentioned that I think it was in 2011 that you were granted a public liquor license. So, did that liquor license approval allow you to serve anyone from the public?
Yes, we had to prove that we would serve the public, and if we were found in violation of that, of not serving the public, only rafting guests, then it was made very clear that we would immediately lose our liquor license.
I don't know all of the ins and outs of the liquor licenses, but I know that that's a separate issue, right? I mean, people get liquor licenses all the time. There's special events all the time. I'm thinking of a variety of event venues around the county where sometimes it's a brewery, but sometimes it gets rented out for certain things. So what is required under the liquor license, I don't know for sure. I don't think Condition 4 has anything to do with a liquor license. I don't think the purpose of it is to define who can be served liquor or who cannot be served liquor. The purpose of Condition 4 was to make sure that they weren't having people on Sundays, larger crowds of people on Sundays outside of the event times. And so how we kind of resolve that, I think there's probably multiple ways to do that, but it shouldn't have anything to do with the liquor license.
Commissioner Gonzalez, you want to further ask questions? Go ahead.
I just need to better understand with Condition 3, which references not to exceed 300 people. If you've not exceeded 300 people in the past, why is that condition of approval problematic for you folks?
The only one was just not. Number 3 was just like the rafters versus non-rafters. Like nobody from the public could be on the land that's not a rafter.
Okay.
Could not be on the land. That's what we're protesting. We're not asking for more people. We came to you asking for 300, and we will adhere to the 300 people on those days. But if someone we're just telling you that if somebody from the public comes at noon that day, or the day before, or any day, we're going to serve them.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
I see Frank wants to question, then I'll go to you, Commissioner Stevens. Frank?
Just sort of as a contextual thing, right? I mean, you sort of have, if on a piece of land, if you have a piece of land generally that has a use that's not a use by right, you have to come in and get a special events or a special review, and then you have permission to do whatever use is on that property all year long. And you have to have the infrastructure for it, the bathrooms, the parking spaces, and all of the other stuff. If you're going to hold a special event, which is something that you only do a couple of times a year or a few times a year, you don't have to go through as much infrastructure development to put all those things in, but you have to build it out to make sure that it's safe for whatever event that you're holding. This is sort of in between, right? And we're sort of, the request here is to say we're not going to build out all of the infrastructure they would normally have to do to have year-round events of a certain size. We're also saying we don't want to do it just for twice a year or 3 times a year. We want to do it on a more regular basis. We don't have a good in-between answer, right? In the code, there's special events, which you can do 3 times a year, and there's special reviews, which you can do all year. This is asking to do a modification of that. So in terms of, Condition 3 or how many people you're going to have on site during certain times, you have the existing approvals for whatever they can do on site, and that's what they can do outside of the times that they're asking for in this application. During these times that are listed in Condition 3, you can't be both at the same time. Either you're running a special event or you're having your other facility open. And so the way that we've done it in the past is you don't operate both the special event and your other regular business. Because then you have to accommodate, again, more bathrooms, more parking spaces, more impacts that you have to account for. So the purpose of all that and the conversation, I think, needs to be focused on the criteria in the application and then on the impacts that are going to come out, like traffic, like bathroom usage or whatever. And those are technical questions that the rest of the staff should be able to answer.
Thank you for that clarification, Frank. And I'm sure I didn't know. Call a friend if David always has a. Since he does all those, that might be a good question for future things, just to kind of understand that, because that's the first time I've heard that. Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, Frank, because this is a little confusing because it's not a very typical business in that they were granted a public liquor license, but technically there's not a bar restaurant, so they're operating that within the auspices of a special event, or it's just for their patrons. I'm having a hard time with the public liquor license and the special event kind
Well,
of scenario.
and I don't know, and the applicant may have more information on this. There's different kinds of liquor licenses. There's permanent liquor licenses that you get to operate and sell alcohol, and then you can get, like, if you're going to have a wedding, you can get a special event liquor license. I don't know what they have. I'm not aware that just because you have a public liquor license means that you can't also have special events. There's places all over the county that do that all the time. Breweries, wineries that hold weddings, hold other events. And so you can do special events at a place with a regular liquor license, and you have to get a separate liquor license to do that. So, but here, we're not here to discuss, what kind of liquor license do you need? We're here to discuss how many bathrooms do you need? How many parking spaces do you need? How many people can be on site safely according to these criteria? So I don't know the liquor license thing. We can try to get more answers on that. But I know that you can get special event liquor licenses and you can get permanent year-round liquor licenses. Again, we're in this kind of in-between phase.
So, yeah, Samantha. I'm sorry, she just was going to follow up, I think, with it.
Yeah, I didn't. Go ahead, Samantha.
Thank you, Commissioners. I just wanted to point out one of the attachments to the staff report was a staff letter outlining uses associated with the 2001 special exception that was signed by Leslie Ellis, the Community Development Division Director at the time.
Yep.
And so I know we're talking about special events, that's what the appeal is for, but operating at the special exception level for the rafting business, she did outline some additional allowed accessory uses, which included use of a tent as a bar tavern for rafting patrons. And under uses not allowed, it says use of a tent as a bar tavern for non-rafters or outdoor music and events and concerts. And one of the options to get approval for that was through the special event permit process. So
Yeah, I just want to be clear that we're not granting a liquor license. We don't have, even if we wanted to, we can't do anything about the liquor license right now. And so that's a whole separate process that's regulated by the state. We go through that process, but I think the question with regard to, we're talking about criteria number, I think 4, and the non-rafting, and I think we've sort of maybe confused the issue, but I think the issue is just if you're operating as a special event under this approval, this appeal, they just need to have whatever liquor license is appropriate for that. The question I think that's getting brought up is, can you have 300 people at your special event and another 100 people that are just there for whatever other public open business property, right? And I think the answer to that question is, do you have enough bathrooms? Do you have enough parking spaces? Do you have enough of the other things that you need? And so that's the question.
Okay. I mean, the only reason that I'm bringing up the liquor license is because, I mean, it sounds like they were maybe given permission to operate kind of like a bar, and maybe they weren't. I mean, like, it seems like there's some confusion. And then with sort of the loss of maybe some paperwork, some of the stuff seems unclear. I mean, I definitely read through the letter that Leslie had. I'm just saying that there seems to be some questions. And then also, I don't see anything in the development about, is there some, or in the recommendations about bringing the sewer system up into the, I mean, I thought it just really talked about, bringing in the appropriate number of restrooms?
So I'm going to allow Leah Schneider answer your question because she brought those concerns up.
Yeah, and so, okay, so for the rafting operation, we still do not have, I mean, this is my predecessor, Doug Ryan's comments that suggested vaulted toilets needed to be installed in lieu of porta potties because you need something more permanent for the rafting business. We're not asking for sewer to be brought in. I mean, that was a potential on various other projects that have been brought forth. I mean, I don't know all of the projects, but some of them involved intense, potentially food service, an actual bar. Those all needed actual sewer, or we were going to go to 2,000 gallon per day septic systems. And those are very costly. So now we're back down to kind of like the bare minimum of a rafting business that will have weekend events. And the weekend events for 300 people can be supplemented with porta potties because they're under a special event permit. But the rafting business is still the one we have to defer all the way back to the 2001 special exception. And it's a limited use type of site. They don't have running water for the bar. They're supposed to be all prepackaged. So it has to be cans, bottles, a keg with a disposable glass or cup, and all that. So they would be able to have like a vaulted type restroom system to comply with current regulations, which don't allow portable restrooms unless you're under an emergency, construction, or a special event.
Thank you. That's helpful. That is very helpful. Thank you.
Commissioner Foss, you have any questions before I ask mine? So I appreciate your comments, Frank, about listening to just the criteria. I mean, looking at the criteria, and you're right, there's other liquor licenses that if they'd have to go through a special events. But since this is multiple weekends in the 30 days, this is the criteria and the needs for extra porta parties, all that's based on those 300, up to 300 people for those up to 30 days with those time things. Is that, and that's just for that, not, this is just for those things, not talking about the business beforehand. I'm kind of trying to, I'm hoping that my question's clear.
Thank you, Commissioners. I believe that you are correct in that the special exception has a limit when it's not special events. If you're asking about the up to 300, that's what they're proposing for, well, actually going back, 300 people, I think they said 300 people on site total. So is your question, the 300, does that include kind of everybody on site or just the special event?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it 300 just for whoever's coming for that special event, or is it also maybe the patrons who are doing the rent? And then, because that's some of the complexity of the non-rafting. And so I'm trying to just understand what that number includes. Does that include all the staff, or is it just 300 patrons?
I think my understanding was it was up to 300, but we could, I don't know if you want to let the applicant ask what her intent was.
I will ask the applicant what their intent was. Thank you. Proceed. Thanks.
So it was for 300 people for that specific time frame. We will have rafters come in and out, and then they leave. Some might stay, but for that exact period, it would be 300.
And that's including staffing and guides and everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, then my next question is back to Leah's, Ms. Snyder's comments. Back to what you had said about the recommendations before. That was for the long-term use, the recommendations for a vault toilet, not ever. It was just saying in the future it could be sewer. You weren't saying it had to be sewer. There was other recommendations. And then the porta parties are based on the 300 people for just 30 days.
For her special events, yeah, for the property's special events, they can use porta potties because they're getting an official approval through the county. Yes, no, sewer was I feel so bad for them. They actually wanted to install sewer, but then the city of Fort Collins said, we're not extending it any further. But no, for their normal rafting, they don't need public sewer.
And so the vaulted that you had mentioned in the previous one had been a recommendation long-term going forward for just the rafting business, not the...
Correct.
Yeah. So
yeah, they don't need vaulted restrooms to support concerts. We have other venues, and I will say I am not familiar with the site plan that came in that maybe approved other things. And I know there's been a lot of parties that have touched these applications, and the liquor license is separate from health, separate from planning, and a lot of those. So I feel bad. There's probably many county entities that have been on the property. We just don't know exactly who.
Right. Okay, that's helpful. I think that's all I have for right now. Any other questions for right now? We'll have public comment, rebuttal, and come back for more questions. Does that sound, Commissioner?
I have a question of staff. I'll do that later.
Okay, thank you. I'll have the applicant sit down, and thank you for answering that question. And then we'll move on to public comment. As I stated before, it'll be 2 minutes. And so we'll start, and I don't believe we had a sign up, correct? Okay, so since we didn't have a sign up, I'm going to invite you kind of raise your hands, and I'm going to start on this side of the room, and I'm going to try to do this as orderly as possible. What I need you to do when you come up to the mic is state your name, and if there's some unusual spellings, to please be very kind to Lindsay and spell out your spelling of your names, and then also where you're from. And so if you wouldn't mind doing that, we'll start with the gentleman in the front row in the blue shirt, and then was there anyone else in the front row? Both of you. So we'll go the front row, and then we'll go the next row after that. You have 2 minutes. Welcome, and please state your name and where you're from, please.
All right, my name is Tom Weller, and I live in Terry Lake. So I've lived in the Eagle Lake, Terry Lake area for 14 years and have been going to the Paddler's Pub and also whitewater rafting for the last probably 12 of that 14 years. And this talk about 300 people all the time. I've been there many, many times, and there's usually about 25 people. So it's not 300 people every day. It's just, and even the Sunday concerts, there's maybe, 35 people. So it's much, much smaller than the concerns about the 300, 400 people. And that's over, 12 years of time. So, and it's always families, and it's, I'm not a 20-year-old kid, so it's very calm atmosphere, and I've never seen any problem there. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Well, the next gentleman, please state your name, spelling it for the clerk if possible, and where you're from.
So my name's Mick Garrett, Garrett, and as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from around these parts, but I've actually lived in the county in Fort Collins longer than I ever lived in Australia. So I moved here in '94, and what I'll tell you is I used to own a company here, and one of the things about Paddler's Pub, it is one of these unique northern Colorado venues, and there's like 4 places I bring all my international guests. So we've had people from France, South Africa, Germany, everywhere. I take them to Jack's on North College. I take them to Mish. I take them to Paddler's Pub and Swing Station. And these are all just fantastic venues that are incredibly unique. And even to this day, I have people talking to me saying, hey, what about Paddler's Pub? So for me, it's more about maintaining a culture and a notion of what it is to live in northern Colorado, because I thought those sort of 4 venues really capture the unique nature of what northern Colorado is about. I would echo what the previous speaker said, Tom. It's always been an incredibly chill place where everybody just comes to have a relaxing afternoon in northern Colorado and really experience how fantastic this place is. So I would hate to have some sort of bureaucratic nuance in regulation and things like that shut down something that is so uniquely part of the DNA of northern Colorado. Thanks.
I appreciate your public comment. Thank you. Please, I'm sorry, I have to call order. The rules and the code of conduct, I'm sorry to say that we have to do that for everyone, whether you're doing for a positive or applause. This is a public hearing. We do not allow outbursts or public comment or public outbursts and clapping. I appreciate that you all are here, but this is a land use hearing, and I don't mean to be, and I don't know where my gavel is. It must be in the back. We cannot allow that. So if you do do that, we will pause the meeting, and we will have. And if it keeps happening, then we'll probably adjourn for a few minutes. So just saying. So thank you appreciate your positive enthusiasm, but there will be no, and if you read the rules, and I think they're on the wall above Ryan there, it says those rules, code of conduct and rules. And that's just, we have to do that because it's for everyone's safety and for the decorum of public meetings. So, sir, you're next. Please come up, identify
I
yourself.
wish the gentleman could have yielded me the remainder of their time. I'm going to try to do this quickly. My name is Tad Loader, Loader. I'm a lifetime resident, fourth generation native of Larimer County, born off the Soapstone homestead. And like you, Mr. Kafala, good to see you again. I'm a former educator in Poudre and Thompson school districts. Thank you for your services. In the past 20 years, I've seen a disturbing trend towards restricting small business enterprise while incentivizing, fast-tracking, and making every imaginable exemption and special exceptions for large corporate interests at the expense and sacrifice of our small businesses, their families, and the citizens of this community. For 45 years, my family had the pleasure of delivering Coffee Craze coffee to hundreds of other small locally owned businesses that no longer exist. Due to the adopted policy direction that would rather court and cater to large corporations than care for the commerce, culture, and common good of this community that I love. Paddler's Pub at Mountain Whitewater is a vital part of that culture. The owners and employers are people that many of us grew up with and went to school with, and even maybe danced together, local musical acts who later made it to the national world stages. With the support of these citizens and the tireless work and kind and community-minded entrepreneurs like the Modisets. Their employees aren't just a bunch of rafters getting a good tan. They're truly stewards of our river ecology. They're trained whitewater safety experts that have saved countless tubing tour-ons and have been there when search and rescue could not. They're the backbone of our local ecotourism that is the primary driver for commerce and all of the local businesses that benefit from the cash brought in by the outdoor enthusiasts that Colorado is known for. They come in for this unique, family-friendly, kids-safe, active, outdoor musical adventure that has been brought to us for years before this excess of regressive regulatory policy changes that are apparent to us have been exclusively designed to edge them out of existence and make room for more land-grabbing developers. It's disgusting. On the other hand, multinational corporations, financial giants get tailor-made accommodations.
I'm sorry, sir. Your public comment time is up. Thank you.
Please stop feeding the giants by starving
Thank
the
you.
families.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So, and just for the record and for the rules for public comment, you can't pool time together and give time to other people. That's been a rule we've had for years, so just wanted to state that. So, sir, go ahead, come on up, identify yourself, spell your name if unusual, and you have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Alan Miller, Allen. I moved here in 1984, and I owned and ran a little construction-related business ever since then. Retired last year, and since then, my lady and I go out and listen to music. We might go to a venue, or we might go to a house concert, but often we just go down to where there's a local jam and hang out with our friends, have a bite to eat, have a beer. Then there's many places around where we can go in this area. It seems like, the breweries and bars have music, and when it's nice, they have music outside. But do you know the bowling alley starts having music, live music? And I was kind of amazed by that. And the last thing is I learned is Panhandler's Pizza, a pizza delivery place, is now a music venue. It has become where having music and having the ability to have music there, it's not something that gives you an edge. It's a necessity that keeps you competitive with everyone else. So economically, it's an important part of any business. And as along with that, with the noise that the world's throwing at us these days, I find myself looking for news that I can tolerate reading. And if I'm looking for something positive, I don't have to go far before I find an article talking about the importance of community building and how important it is to an area to build community. And I don't know anything that does a better job of building community than music and gathering of folks together. And all these folks are going to tell you how wonderful this facility is for that. I host a little street fair once a year, neighborhood party.
Sorry,
Okay.
sir, your time is up. Thank you for your
Thank
public
you so
comment.
much.
I appreciate it. Okay, next guest, please come to the podium. You have 2 minutes if you'll say your name, state it, and where you're from. Thank you.
Sure. Jen Hayes, Hayes. I live here in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I've been here since 2005. And one of the things that has really struck me in my time in Colorado is how beautiful the natural world is. And one of the places that we go and we have frequented for a very long time, my family with my children, is the Paddler's Pub, because you get to watch the beautiful sunsets. You get to be with, as was mentioned by the previous speaker, it's always a friendly, calm community. But I'm also a boater. And so for me, that is why I started going there. I love the Poudre Canyon. We've been boaters our whole lives, my family. And I will tell you something about boaters is that they're not just a solitary group, they're a social group. And so the number 4, I think it was only offer boaters or not boaters. That's not even like possible in the boating community, because after you get off the river, everybody comes and hangs out. You tell stories, you watch the videos, you just have a great time with the other people that maybe went a different day boating. Maybe they didn't boat that day, so you can't differentiate that. I'm also a music lover, and what I've appreciated a lot about the Paddler's Pub is they give up-and-coming musicians a lot of opportunities, people that aren't big enough to play places like the Mishawaka or Avos. They have introduced me to a lot of new local music, and I think that's something that this community is trying to cultivate, is a local music scene. And I've found a lot of new artists thanks to them bringing in just small neighborhood people. I also know them now after spending many afternoons at the pub as good friends, and I can tell you that they are committed to this community. They want to do right. They are not trying to cut corners. They really just want to do something good for the people that live in this area. And the reason I've become friends with them is because they have these huge hearts, and you want to bring people like that into your lives. And so I hope that we do not try to put more impositions on small businesses. I think we need more small businesses in this town. Too many have gone out of business. So I hope we can make this work. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment, and thank you for honoring the time limit. So next person to come up, and I appreciate you all being standing and ready to go. That's very helpful. Would you please identify yourself and where you're from? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Candace Braden. People that come to the pub know me as Ace. That would be my nickname. I've been a bartender at Paddler's Pub for 10 years. This year would be my 10th year. Love the Modesett family. They're a loving family with a love for adventure that they kind of go away to and bring it back here to this town. I'm from Fort Collins. I'm locally grown, born and raised. Love my community and try to serve it any way that I can. Bartending is one of the ways that just naturally worked out for me. And I found these guys just from a mutual friend and was hooked right away. I love seeing the locals. The locals love us. A place to come on their way down from, coming back from a hike from the canyon, doing all the active things we do here in Colorado. But also, I love that at the pub, we get to mingle our locals with people from out of the state. Like, we have more people. It's a really good mix of people coming to visit Colorado to see what we're all about and see what the hype is all about. You don't get to be number one on the best places to live without the hype. So people really love coming here. And I love that sometimes my locals do a little bit of work for me and tell people about the amazing hikes here in Colorado, all the things to do. We have a lot of boaters, even from other companies, that come to mingle and enjoy that camaraderie that really does come from testing your limits on the water. So I also grew up going to Mishawaka, and my dad's a musician here in town. And going to shows is a big part of my childhood, and the families getting together to come see live music outdoors is a wonderful thing. So I hope we can protect that, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next speaker, please. You'll have 2 minutes. Please state your name and where you live. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly O'Donnell. That's Kelly with a Y and O'Donnell with 2 L's. And I would like to say that I think Paddler's Pub is a Fort Collins treasure. It is very creative, and I don't think we need more cookie cutter chain type places. And if we lose this place, we are losing something that attracts tourism and economics to Fort Collins. I would bring any guests from out of town to that place, and I don't know if any of the commissioners have been there, but I encourage you to go and see it. I have 2 kids, and when they were younger, I would take them there, and one of my favorite things about that place is they have actual giant games that kids can play, so parents can enjoy music. Parents with small kids can come there and have a good time and not just have to go to playgrounds. And it's a piece of art, the way they have it decorated. And to lose that would be such a shame. And I think that there's such a thing as grandfathering in, and I don't think it's fair really to change some of the rules that they were playing the game by, and they've been having such hard times. We're lucky to even have them. So if we can make it easier for them to exist, I think we should try to do that. It's really worth it. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. We'll invite the next person for public comment. You have 2 minutes. Please state your name.
My name is Mark Morehouse. I live in Fort Collins and have lived here since 1999, or in northern Colorado, at least since 1999. I'm going to take a different angle because we have lots of people telling you guys how great Paddler's Pub is. I'm kind of confused on what we're actually doing here because they've been in business for 27 years. They've had live music for 15 years. And as someone stated over here, they've had all kinds of county people that have been on their property and inspected it. And as Ms. Mott stated, they've never had a violation. So this is really short for me. Like, I kind of don't get what we're doing here. They've followed all the rules. They want to do the same thing they've been doing. I don't understand why we would change that. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, next person for public comment, please.
Hi, I'm Carl Alexander. I live in the county. I wrote stuff down, but everybody's already said pretty much all of it. So I'm going to add some things that haven't been pointed out. Paddler's Pub, I think Lindsay said a quarter of Fort Collins has rafted there. That means 3/4 comes from somewhere else. They bring a whole lot of money from other states, other countries into our local economy. Huge asset. That's speaking your guys' language. Also, it's just a bureaucratic problem. Those are man-made rules. You're the people who do this. Figure it out. I think you all want to. You're all for it. Figure it out. They are like exhausted. You're running them crazy. They're ready to give up. And that's totally wrong. Please fix that.
Next person for public comment.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Martin. Thomas is an H, Martin. I am a local attorney for 25 years in Fort Collins, and I'm a friend of the Modison family. I think the commissioners need to consider one thing that really hasn't been brought up today, and that is that there were 5 different river companies running the Poudre River. And on their luckiest year, they maybe have 12 weeks in which to make a living for the entire year. So the Paddler's Pub, while associated in addendum to the rafting operation, is a supplemental source of income that makes a bad water month or a bad river year, or when the canyon's closed, it allows a family to survive and not declare bankruptcy. As an attorney, I'm not a civil attorney. I specialize in criminal defense, but I essentially represent every raft guide working the Poudre River when they get in trouble. At least that's what it seems like, from all 5 different companies. And I also have assisted the Mottesits with a number of issues. And I would have heard either from a bartender or a guide or from Brad or Lindsay themselves if there were ever a problem at the pub, if there was ever a fight, unruly conduct, if there was ever an issue with somebody attempting to get a beer or a drink underage. So I think what we're really concerned about here is an unnecessary and unreasonable restraint of trade. Their liquor license is not like the American Legion. It's like Crazy Carl's. They have to let everybody in. And if you restrict who can come and when they can come, it cancels their liquor license. They're not a private club like the American Legion who can restrict attendance to members only. So I'd ask you to consider that. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
My name is Gary Fisher. I'm a resident of Fort Collins. We've been here for about 5 years. One of my passions has been live music, and I've just been amazed by all the variety and the number of venues here in Fort Collins. And I just like to say, Paddler's Pub, from the moment I discovered it, has been one of my favorite places, and it has some unique qualities that other places don't have. It is an outdoor venue. There's not a lot of true outdoor venues. The other thing is it is big enough, and being out away from the city, it's not as crowded as some of the venues get so crowded that it kind of drives people away. So it's a unique kind of respite from the crowded in-town venues, and I think the record of the venue speaks for itself. They've never had a single problem. So I would just ask that you find a way to make this work for them, allow another small business to stay in business here in Fort Collins. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next person, please.
Hello, I'm John Bauer. I live in Fort Collins, on the south side of Fort Collins. I don't have to add anything more that everybody's already said about Public and what a great place it is. But I'd like to speak to you all on the application and ask that you actually kind of look at the conditions. I'm hoping that you will go ahead and approve this. Staff is recommending it. I believe most of you are in support of it. But the 3 conditions that are put on there, 3, 4, and 5, I'd like to kind of ask that you make several changes. One, on number 3, limit that condition number 3 just to the first sentence. The rest of the special event application provides all the other information on that. The special event application, they'll have to still submit for every one of these events. Though you can restrict what happens there in that application. You don't need to put it actually in this appeal. Number 4, it's not necessary. Again, it's a special event. This is only a special event, and we're not trying to get approval for anything outside of a special event. So that would be my second recommendation. And the 5th one is, I think, already a known issue, and that's why there's a tent out there to actually use the tent for this special event. So that's what I'd recommend. I would not recommend putting that 11th clause where it asks you to sit there and have to say that if they're in non-compliance, that they get automatically everything removed. I think that's handled also in the special event application in terms of the code of conduct. And lastly, I'd like you to see if you could add that you said that it's restricted only to 1 year. I'd like to put on there that unless there's a substantial change to the need for the event, that this be that's automatically reapproved, and it's conditioned to all the special event applications that they need to kind of follow. This does not include a one guarantee, but they have to still fill out a special event application every time. So putting a condition that this is only 1 year and not renewable doesn't make sense.
Thank you for your public comment and following the time. Next person.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Robinson. I am the current owner of Hog Wild Barbecue in Fort Collins. I have been one of the food trucks that has had the joy of being over at Paddler's Pub, and I want to be the first to tell you it is not a small business. is a family business. It is kids, it's adults. The liquor license is a beer and wine license. It does not include anything else, so let's not make it more than what it is. We're just going out there and having refreshment, selling food, enjoying people's company. But I think the first thing that we have to figure out is that it's all about families. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your public comment. Next person.
My name is Jean Wheeler, Jean, and I live at 1213 North US Highway 287. So as you can tell, I live just a few houses away from this business, family business, and I have to admit, originally I was a little skeptical about them moving in and doing the business there, but they reached out to me. We spent a lot of time talking, and they have become some of my best, wonderful friends. They have brought community to that area, and you know what that area is like. I live on the newest highway in northern Colorado on 287, and if something were to happen, I can call them and I can say, hey, guys, I need your help. They have built a community. There's all the accolades that you've heard from everybody else, and I agree with every one of those things. I'm proud to have them as neighbors. I'm proud to have them as friends, and I just truly hope you allow them to continue their business, our family business. And I hope you don't take away the option of me being able to walk down and spend some time down there.
Thank you for your public comment. Next person, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Siglin. I live 528 and a half North Overland Drive. I just want to say that I'm a father and a husband, and my wife, she worked at Paddler's Pub when she was in college, and I've had the pleasure of going to Paddler's Pub and Mountain Whitewater with both of them numerous times, and want to give some examples of the way it's possible to get there from where I live. You can bike there. You can bike there and go rafting. You can bike there and go to the pub. You can bike there and go see music. You can drive there and go rafting. You can drive there and go to the pub. And you can drive there and go see music. You can carpool there and go see music. I'm really looking forward to seeing some music at Paddler's Pub this summer with my family and my friends. And the other thing I want to note is just the location. In terms of rafting, if you can't make a business work at the location these guys are at, then you're going to struggle to make a rafting business work anywhere in Fort Collins. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. On the next speaker, please. And I appreciate you all getting up and being ready to go. That shortens the time, and I thank you for that.
Hello, my name is Justin Wagner, and I've lived in northern Colorado for 39 years. And I'm living in Fort Collins right now. So I was just going to get to the point of the music. I'm not sure how much that is like weighing on you guys' decision, but I think they would be probably more than willing to change things around if noise is a concern. I'm sure they'd love to do a decibel test. I'm sure they'd love to decide what direction the stage should be facing. And there's also, the opportunity of maybe putting up some sort of sound barrier that incorporates into the design of the area back there. So I just wanted to say that, I think they'd be happy to work around any concerns that you guys have. And that's it. All right.
Appreciate your public comment. Next person, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Adam Perlstein, Pearlstein. I live in Larimer County, 80524. For 9 months of the year, I'm a teacher. I teach physics. And for 3 months of the year, I work at Mountain Whitewater. This will be my 13th season. I'm a raft guide, I'm a photographer, and I'm a big fan of the Paddler's Pub, and obviously here to offer my support. I'm also a fan of live music, and it's a special venue. There's not a lot of these medium-sized venues around town. You've got your little coffee shops, you've got your your big, the Washingtons, the Aggie, but there's just not a lot of places to go see music with a bunch of friends and family. So it's a special place. I am not a musician, but I did once do a physics of music presentation with my musician friend there, which was super fun. And so I'm just offering my support to Paddler's Pub at Mountain Whitewater. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your public comment. Is there anyone else in the audience?
I'll speak.
Thank you, sir.
Modesitt, Modesitt. Unfortunately, the PowerPoint wasn't working. Can I give you guys the PowerPoint so you could see
So this is public comment, so he can make public comment. If you want something, Frank, can you just pause the clock for a moment? This is the applicant and public comment, and so can you help me address this, because they could do this and
yeah, we can take the
we can take it,
thing
but
and put it into the record. We should do that.
Well, you have the PowerPoint, but for some reason it wasn't showing.
well, we can,
and it's kind of important that they see some of the.
So I'm just curious, because it says the applicant is public comment, and I just want to make sure we do this properly.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to silence you. It's just there's a process, and we need to follow that. So because we make everyone follow the same process.
we just need to finish public comment with members of the public. If the applicant wants to comment, they'll have the rebuttal to do it.
That's what I thought. So since you're the applicant, sir, and I know you have a document, I'm going to have you wait to the rebuttal, and you can come back up, and then you can introduce that.
So I can't talk as the public comment, only my wife.
You're the applicant, and the applicant time is during either the applicant presentation or the rebuttal time. This is the public comment time.
So in a few minutes, you'll be able to do the rebuttal, and then you can hand that over to Jenny Axemaker in the green. Next person, please.
Hello, commissioners. My name is Gabriel Tower. I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm an employee of the Modesitts. I work at Mountain Whitewater. Excuse me. As a photographer, I've only lived in Fort Collins for 3 years, but I just want to say that the Modesitt name is synonymous with community here in Fort Collins. So many people that I talk to are familiar with this family, and the reason for that is because they are cornerstones in the community, and they have built the community through their business, through their outreach, and most importantly, through their direct or indirect advocacy for the river and for Fort Collins natural areas. It goes without saying how vital the Poudre Canyon and the rest of Fort Collins natural areas are to the local economy of Fort Collins and northern Colorado, and Mountain Whitewater and the Paddler's Pub are a invaluable window into that world for the local community and for anyone that comes to visit in Fort Collins. And I contemplated not getting up here to speak to add on to what other members had said already, but I think there's value in reiterating how important the Paddler's Pub is, as well as Mountain Whitewater, to the local community here in Fort Collins. And I think that the community value, not to mention the economic value, really cannot be understated here. So thank you, commissioners.
Thank you for your public comment. Next person.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you very much. My name is Caden Fisher, Kaeden Fisher, like a regular Fisher. I live and work here in Fort Collins. I have a lot of good things to say about the Modesitts. Last year when I lost my job as a biochemist, thanks to a certain government agency, I was struggling financially and emotionally to cope with it all. Thanks to the Modesitts, I was able to survive, not only through financial turmoil, but also through a series of emotional turmoils as well. The river is life. really breathes life into this community. As you can see, it brings together all sorts of people, Paddler's Pub in particular. But the community is brought together even more so by the financial dollars that this particular pub brings in. Like it says, it is an outdoor venue, very much a unique venue that brings in all sorts of clientele, not just rafters. And it's beautiful to see how many people from around the world are able to experience this slice of heaven that we have here. So thank you all so much for considering allowing the Paddler's Pub to exist and survive, because it certainly allows me to exist and survive. That being said, I have to leave and go to my other job that helps me survive. So thank you all so much for your time. Good luck.
Thank you for your public comment. Okay. Oh, next one. Thank you.
I am Jessica Morris. I arrived in Fort Collins in 1981. I just wanted to quick say that since the special, like the number seems to be one of the biggest things, is that all the special events that I've attended have been ticketed. And so I would imagine that if the rafters are staying for the special event, that they would have to buy a ticket, so it would address the numbers issue. And it's it's an outdoor venue that is actually ADA accessible. My mother's typically transfers in a wheelchair, and it's one of the places that she can easily access as well. So it's a big, huge family and community space. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. All right, I'm going to go online, and I'll come back to the room. Okay?
So we have Tim O'Hara. You have permission to speak, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Mr. O'Hara, are you there? You have 2 minutes.
Please unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
Thank you for your time. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today. My name is Tim O'Hara, 1929 West County Road 56. On a personal level, I agree with everything that's been said so far. On a professional level, I'm on the Visit Fort Collins Board of Directors currently, and this is one of the things that brings a lot of people to our town. I chaired the LaPorte Area Planning Advisory Committee for 11 years, which during our time in the committee, we rewrote the LaPorte Area Master Plan. In that plan, we just had a desired business criteria, 2 priorities clearly identified: support for locally owned micro businesses and family businesses, and encouragement of community gathering oriented establishment. Paddler's Pub aligns perfectly with both of those goals. They become an outstanding community gathering place, a unique entertainment venue, the exact type of business the master plan intended to foster. The local character and sense of the community they cultivate is second to none. They have consistently demonstrated the values we hope to promote in LaPorte. Despite this, the county's been extremely difficult for them to work with year after year, and they continue to persevere, providing the space that brings people together and strengthens the fabric of our community. I strongly urge you to allow them to continue doing business without the excessive restrictions that have been imposed. Paddler's Pub is precisely the kind of business the master plan was designed to support. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Anyone else online?
If there are any other members of the public online, please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. We don't have any other hands raised.
Okay, I'll go do one more tour around in the person room. Anyone else want to do public comment? Okay, we're going to close public comment, and thank you all for participating and sharing your passions and your comments. And now we'll move to the next portion, which is a 5-minute rebuttal from the applicants. And I invite the applicants up to the podium. You have 5 minutes to address the public comment, though I don't think there was any opposition. But if you had those other documents or things you wanted to bring, or it looks like it's up there now. So there we go. So we have 5 minutes, sir.
So this has been a long river dealing with this. I originally got the special exception in 2001. There were restrictions of a site plan and a vault system should be considered. It was considered and wasn't feasible. The site plan was submitted and somehow got lost by somebody. It was paper in those days, so I don't know what happened. It was brought to our attention in 2006, and they were worried that a parking lot was not put in. The parking lot was put in. They came out for a site visit in 2007 on February 13th. That case was closed. It was done. There's no site plan needed. All good. So we kept going. In 2009, we started looking into getting a liquor license. It was a long process. In 2011, we got that liquor license. Could you go on a couple? On that liquor, keep going. Keep going one more. So on that liquor license, we were told what we had to do. We had submitted a site plan. This site plan showed everything where people could be served alcohol, where they couldn't be served alcohol, where they're going to park. It shows where the bars were going to be. If you go to the next slide, please, you'll see the office. That's the office that we currently have. That's where we were going to serve alcohol. It shows where there's a bar in the office. It's not like we were trying to hide anything we were doing. We got a valid year-long beer and wine license. That's from the state. It's not a club license. It is a major part of what we're talking about here. We're allowed to serve the public. We legally have to serve the public, not just pick and choose. So we got that liquor license. A few years later, all of a sudden the county came to us and said, you know, we don't think you should be in the tent or in the house. You can still use the toilets, that's fine, but you can't be in the house. So we moved into a circus tent. Not ideal for my business. Whatever, I'll make it work. A few years after that, 5 years after that, I think, all of a sudden they said we couldn't use the bathrooms in the house, just porta potties. Okay, dealt with that. All good. Well, all along they're saying, you know, you need to put in a big establishment. Great, we wanted to do that. We tried our first attempt at a $10 million enterprise, $4 million of that bringing sewer to the site. It was just unfeasible. The only person who would talk to me was a Reno mob boss. I chose not to go that way. The next time, we tried a much smaller venue, $2.5 million, using a forced main. A forced main is just pushing the excrement to the sewer. It doesn't help anybody else. That was going to be $1 million to $2 million. Before we even put a house there, a bathroom, we're $1 million, $2 million in for a very small venue. That wasn't feasible either. So all along, each one of these, we have asked the county planners and the county people what we can do. Hey, can we go back to just rafting? No, not allowed to go back to just rafting. Once you got your liquor license, you have to move forward. Well, we can't move forward. We cannot afford a $4 million sewer or a $2 million sewer. It's unfeasible. And so what you're telling us now is we can't go back to just rafting. We can't run like we are today, and we can't move forward. Well, wow. Are you guys really that anti-business that you would want that? That seems absurd. I hope you're not. But what you're doing with these conditions, and it's far more than just 3, 4, and 5. If you look at 9 and 10, or I think 8 and 9, those are pretty bad. I'm shocked they didn't bring up these 10 conditions and read them to everybody because, you know, 8 or 9 says that within 6 months, we have to bring restrooms to the site. So within 6 months, I can put in either a forced main or sewer. Well, that's not going to happen. So what you're telling me is if this doesn't get approved, then we have to find a new site in Larimer County and move. I don't want to move. It'll just go to somebody else and they'll have to deal with this problem. I wanted this to be a legacy for my children. It's not.
Thank you for your rebuttal, which actually ended up being a little bit more of a application thing. But so your time is up, and I appreciate you using the full time. So we'll have you sit down, and we'll see if there's any questions going forward. I'm going to, colleagues, I'm going to take a step for a moment and just ask Samantha and the county attorney, or Jen, can we just go back here and pull out and just let's say, why are we here and what is this for? And what are the criteria that we have to follow? This is not about pro music, not pro music, small business, not for small business. This is a land use process that's been in place for a while. And just because things have been happening doesn't always they've been happening following the old rules, new rules. And so I just want to kind of, if you wouldn't mind addressing that, and let's just stop for a moment and just reset to why we're here and what is the criteria. And we can't have any discretion other than following the criteria in the land use code. So, and applying this application to that land use code. So if you wouldn't mind, Samantha, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to share my screen just to pull up that criteria just so that you have it. Let me pull that up. So going back to the question of what's before the Board of County Commissioners today, the request is an appeal to apply for special event permits. So it's not necessarily talking about the existing rafting business. It's can they apply for special event permits that don't fit under our current regulations? Like it's because of the way their special event are scheduled, it doesn't fit the 1 per month, limiting it to 3 per year. So that's what we're here to ask. The review criteria for an appeal to the special event regulations are on the screen. And this is what was evaluated as part of the planning application, and staff determined that it did meet the criteria for an appeal. I think part of the issue that came up, so if, going back, it's the special event permits. If the commissioners approve their appeal, they will then have to apply for special event permits, and there's no guarantee of approval. It would go through the process. They would be reviewed for the technical requirements for the special event permits. There's a list of reviewers that look at that. But I think it's important, like you said, to go back, what is the criteria for this appeal? The only other thing I do want to mention, that which I think is what kind of complicated this, is there are some issues that need to be resolved with the special exception. And so because the appeal is bringing more people to the site, I think that's why there was a discussion about septic and why there were some conditions about finishing the site plan review. And that is it in a nutshell, but I'm happy to go into more detail if you need it.
I think that's great. I just want to get back to why we're here and what we're really talking about and what we are limited to look at. So I appreciate that very much. Colleagues, thank you for letting me do that. I just thought maybe that was a good thing to get back to why we're here and what are limited to. So Commissioner Stevens, I wanted to see if you had any questions for staff or the applicant.
I do have a few questions. So it sounds like they were approved for so the initial kind of approvals that they received, they can run a rafting business. They can run a pub that serves their rafters. Can it serve it's not allowed to serve other people. What about the people that come along with the rafters? Like I maybe don't want to raft. I'm the mom or the grandma or whatever, I mean, like, is there flexibility in that I mean, because, enforcing that would be, pretty difficult. And there are people that come to a business that don't necessarily use it. So can you just explain that a little bit?
Yes, Commissioner. I referenced the letter from the Community Development Director from 2019 that kind of outlines some of the allowed accessory uses, where it talked about the bar tavern was allowed to be used for rafting patrons only. It did say that use of the bar tavern for non-rafters was not allowed unless it got approval, like through a special review or a special event permit. But understanding that that is difficult to maybe enforce, I think that to clarify, you'll see in the letter that there was a kind of in parentheses added, this refers to the advertisement of the bar tavern to the general public. So it was like So it doesn't specifically address if somebody were to come with a rafting patron, like, and was waiting for them to get done with the raft. It does say it's for rafting patrons. It does say that you'd have to get a special event permit or special review approval for non-rafting patrons, but it does talk about kind of this refers to the advertisement to the general public. So you can't be advertising it that it's open to the general public.
And is part of that because there's some not meeting of the restroom requirements, and they haven't been sort of approved as a business in that way, and that they've operated in a special event permit kind of space in this space?
I think going back that, as you saw, they've been through a lot of different processes, and in my staff report, I mentioned like several special reviews and amended special reviews, and those have all expired. So this letter was kind of addressing that they could go back to this 2001 special exception approval. They did get approved for this for the rafting business. It is an approved use as part of the special exception. The letter was to outline kind of what accessory uses are allowed. We didn't have a specific rafting use in our code back in 2001. I think you'll see that later on they did do a rezoning to PD to allow commercial uses like rafting. But the rafting wasn't specifically called out, so that's why the director, I think, clarified with this letter what accessory uses you could have. So yes, there is a commercial use approved on this property, the rafting business. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So this is a really unique kind of situation here. Like, this is a business that has operated for a long time, clearly beloved by the community, clearly creates community, operates really kind of during the summer months, basically, right? I mean, we're not talking about like these concerts and even the, I mean, you're not rafting then, they're outdoors, they can't. I guess I'm just trying to think of like, I personally don't want to be anti-business. Like, that is not my goal. It is not my goal to put people out of business or to shut down a beloved. I'm trying to figure out how we can structure this so we can say this business that is important to our community from an economic and a community building standpoint, how we can get to a place where we can, honestly, let them operate. I mean, to me, that's like that piece is important because I do
I'm going to
understand.
pause you just a second. No outburst. I'm sorry. If that happens again, I'm going to gavel and we're going to pause. Thank you. Go ahead.
So I mean, I do understand health concerns, right? And I do I don't want to dismiss that, but I also feel like there was maybe some mixed information or at least some clarity in some of these spaces. And I appreciate the letter from the director. I think that's very clear about what was allowed. I'm also just like, I'm a little confused about the house, whether it was approved or not approved, because it sounds like initially it was approved and then it wasn't approved. Do you have any information about that?
I might defer to Leah to chime in if she has additional information, but I know that with one of our previous special reviews, and I don't know because I haven't been the planner on this the whole time, but at some point during one of the special reviews, I think it was brought to the attention, like the chief building official recognized that the house that's being used as an office was never permitted as, like, they didn't get a conversion permit to convert it from residential to commercial. So I believe that's what we're referring to. I didn't see a permit history that it had been converted. So at one point with one of their proposed expansions, we talked about just demoing the building because the other option was to get a commercial permit and bring it up to commercial code. I do think that in the applicant's presentation, they talked about, I think, the site plan, and maybe it had to do with the liquor license. So I don't know if, like, approval of the house, I don't know. I'm just speculating that maybe there was something that was looked at and evaluated as part of the liquor license, but I don't know for sure. So that's just speculation on my part. But I know from the planning process that it came up about the use of the house and needing a commercial permit because I think there was some accessibility requirements as well. And I don't know if Leah has anything to add or if I covered it.
I'll just add, my predecessor made comments in 2001 on the special exception, and they had mentioned that the house is served by an on-site septic system and that it was repaired in 1996 and where it was located, but it wasn't intended to support the business. It was still just seen as a house with a septic system, and they wanted the roadway to be strategically placed so that not the septic wouldn't get impacted, because it's a very delicate area out there. Their soils are pretty complicated. And then in their next paragraph, my predecessor had mentioned that the sewer service for clients would be porta potties. Our office is concerned that this is not the most appropriate level of service. So when they got their sewer appeal, that they didn't need to have sewer for just the rafting business, that they should be looking at a permanent structure and vaulted privy. And yes, and I was with conversations about Eric Fried bringing up that there was no planning or building permit process for the house to be used commercially. So I'm not sure where that originated.
Okay, but it did sound like at one point that they felt like if they did something with the doors on the bathrooms, that would help them get into compliance in that space.
That might be a liquor licensing thing too. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. All right.
They have some interesting requirements.
Do you have more questions, Commissioner? I was going to let Commissioner
not right
Gonfalves. Okay, Commissioner Gonfalves.
Yes, I have a few questions for Samantha. And I must express that I share deeply the sentiment that Commissioner Stevens expressed. I'm hoping we can find a path forward, but I want to go back to, well, I appreciate the question from Commissioner Shattuck McNally about resetting and, what is the purpose of this afternoon's discussion. But could you be more specific in terms of the appeal? What are, and how does that relate to how they're currently operating and how they've currently been operating for the last 27 years? But there are certain things they're appealing, and if that is granted, then they still have to go and apply for special events. But could you say more about what they're appealing and how that, for example, Friday nights and Sunday afternoons, which is different than the way they're operating now. Could you speak to some of that, please?
Yes, I certainly can, Commissioner. So they're operating as a rafting business, and they are allowed to apply for special event permits. The reason that they are asking for an appeal is because what they're asking for doesn't currently meet how we manage special event permits. As I mentioned, you're only allowed 3 special event permits a year. You're only allowed 1 per month. What they're requesting is just the Fridays and the Sundays from May 29th to September 6th. One of the things is that our code is not explicit about is consecutive days for a special event. And when you straddle a month. So if you look at, since they're asking for events on 5 different months, that could be considered 5 different permits. The events they're asking for are not consecutive days. Even though it's 30 days in total, and you're allowed 30 days of special events, because they're not consecutive, because they straddle months, they don't kind of fall into our normal special event regulations. So that's why they're asking for an appeal. They just want 30 days of special events, but kind of distributed between that May date and that September date. And if you don't mind, okay. I think this has been talked about, but as you know, we're amending our special event regulations, and our special event regulations have been amended multiple times. I believe, I tried to look it up, it looks like we first added them to the code in 2004, and there was a big shift in 2017. And the applicants have successfully applied for special events in the past and have hosted special events. And I believe they also indicated that they didn't have any, complaints or noted concerns or violations. I think I even mentioned in my staff report that in the past they applied for 3 special event permits that were kind of like these 10-day chunks. So they're asking for something different that really doesn't fit into the way our land use code kind of allows special events to fall, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Just a few more follow-up questions. Just permission to have a little bit of dialogue with our senior planner.
Sure, Commissioner. And then just let me know when you're getting close. I'm trying to write down some of my questions too. Thank you.
Thank you. On the matter of so for 5 months they want to do additional events there in order to keep their business afloat, but that's not subject to objective review criteria. When you mentioned it might require 5 special events permits, isn't that a matter of interpretation? Why can't they do just one special events permit to allow them to do Fridays and Sundays for 5 months so they can generate more revenue? And we don't know what kind of rafting season we're going to have with the way the snowpack is.
Commissioner, that's a great question, because I looked at this also with the applicants only requesting 30 days. Like, could they apply for one special event permit? They only have 30 days, but then you have a special event that's in like kind of straddling the months, and we haven't allowed that. So it seemed like for kind of consistency and clarity, the appeal was the best way to go forward to make sure that we're answering the question. And just as a side note, like that clarity about kind of straddling the month and and it's not consecutive days, so it's not consistent with how we've approved special event permits in the past. So to kind of that's why they did the appeals, because it's not consecutive. It's more than 3 months.
So how is Paddler's Pub currently operating? How many, last summer, for example, how did they operate with regard to music events and that sort of thing, and combined with their rafting services?
It's my understanding that they didn't have the live music last year. They didn't apply for any special event permits last year.
And granting this appeal will just allow them to get to first base, and then they've got to go through all the business of applying for special events permits. Whether it's, are you still saying it's going to be 5, or could it be 1?
I think it could easily be 1. It doesn't have to be 5. I think, especially if they're all going to kind of function the same with the 2 days, maybe 1 is easier.
Okay, and forgive me, I don't mean to be putting you on the spot. I'm just, you can probably tell I'm really struggling with this thing.
And I have to say, Jenny has her hand raised, Commissioner, but also I think maybe, I understand why you're asking that question, but I think we should focus on the criteria and why we're here.
Focusing on the criteria.
Yeah, so Jenny has her hand raised, would like to respond to you, Commissioner.
I would just like to add a little bit of additional context to, we have all sorts of different special event organizers throughout the county, and we're trying to treat organizations consistently in how we interpret the code. So this is a very similar approach that we've taken with Dow House and Estes Park, as well as the YMCA of the Rockies. And so that's where we're trying to get consistency with interpretation and treat people the same, organizations the same.
I appreciate that, Jenny, but as we often tell the state of Colorado when they pass laws that try to treat us all the same, one size does not fit all. So I think that's something to keep in mind, perhaps. Just a couple more questions, and I will bring it back to the review criteria. So could you say a little bit, because I think there's been some confusion about the purpose of the conditions of approval. There are 10 conditions of approval. The first one in particular says that whatever is approved or not approved would be just for this year, because maybe you could speak to that in particular, but also what is the purpose of these conditions of approval and how do they relate to whether or not the review criteria for this appeal are being met or can be met with the conditions of approval. Please, Samantha.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I can speak to the first condition of approval, and that the reason that we limit it to this 1 year is because our code amendments are under review right now. So I think I even mentioned that we are looking at possibly providing flexibility with commercial properties to look at how the director could maybe distribute those 30 days. I don't know what the end result is going to be of those code amendments, but kind of right now, that's one of the directions we're leaning towards. So in recommending approval of this for one season, the 2026 season only, it would get them, they would be able to apply for special event permits for this year, and then could see what happens with the special event permits for moving forward starting in 2027. It may benefit them, it may not. I know that they're aware and have participated in kind of providing comments on the special event regulations. But that was the intent of that first comment or that first condition. And then the second one was just kind of that standard. If you get approved, then you would have to go through the special event permit process. And I think we put in a deadline like 60 days before the first event just to make sure there was enough time to review the application. And I will say the other conditions, as I mentioned earlier, that the health department had brought up some items. So conditions 3 through 10, I copied directly from the health department's letter and their recommendations and brought those in. And I'm happy to go through them, or I don't know if, not to put you on the spot, Leah, but I don't know if you want to talk about those or I can go through them.
In the interest of trying to further the process here, let me ask this question, Samantha. Is it correct that whatever decision is made tonight, when these folks apply for, if it goes forward, when these folks apply for a special events permit, some of these issues would need to be worked out? If they're not worked out, then perhaps they would be denied a special events permit?
I think that's a fair comment because I guess two things. I want to go back, kind of just skimming the remaining conditions of approval. They either tie to kind of specifics. I think 3 and 4, a lot of that came from kind of the days, the times, and what the applicant was proposing. And then some of the others have to do with the limitations of, or maybe incomplete, the site plan and maybe some building permits that need to be obtained. So in answer to your question, if this is approved, then yes, there are some things that still need to be worked out. Some of them relate to the special event permits, which would be reviewed and evaluated at the special event permit phase. It does also appear there's, a few things still remaining regarding the site and the special exception, which is sort of a separate issue. I mean, I think we talked about this with the special event permit. We talked about kind of the sanitation. With a special event permit, you can use porta potties. With a permanent approval, you don't have porta potties. So I think as part of, if they received approval for the appeal and they were able to apply for special event permits, then they could have porta potties for the special events. But kind of the underlying issue with sanitation for the site itself needs to be resolved. And I think the specific question about the building can't be used for special events. That condition is in there, and I think the applicant spoke to that. And Leah, if I misstated anything, please jump in, but hopefully that helps clarify.
Yeah, one more, please, just one more. Thanks for now. So, in light of the issues that have been raised, the conversations, the clarifications that we've attempted to offer, is it, as the senior planner working on this project, this proposal, do you still believe that the 5 review criteria, along with whatever needs to be done, have been met?
I do. I do, Commissioner. I believe the criteria has been met for the appeal because I believe a lot of the permit itself will be evaluated. But yes, for the request before you right now, the appeal staff and myself believe the criteria has been met for the appeal.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stevens, do you mind if I ask a few questions before I go back to you? Thank you. Let me pull back a little bit, Samantha. I don't think any of us here on this board are anti-small business. In fact, I have a long reputation of supporting small businesses. This is not about supporting small businesses. We have a process. And as Jenny said, we're trying to treat everyone the same. We have some longer term businesses where the conditions have changed and more people are visiting them. And so this is, I feel like what you're trying to do here is the applicant had a challenge. And because of, as you say, this, the middle ground here thing that we're trying to address with some of the newer updating the special event permits. And a lot of that also is because we have some bad actors in the county, not these folks, but others, but also addressing some of these gaps. And it sounds like the applicant has been very involved or understand that process and understands maybe some of these limitations. So it sounds like you this first appeal would allow them to apply for the special event permit because there is no other way for them to apply for it because they don't meet the criteria. And so this is because they're asking for a special exception to with the current regulations. This is the appeal that they need to go forward. And you feel they've met the criteria if those conditions of approval, because one of them is referral agency for the public health department, they have to be, you really recommend those conditions because this public health sanitation, because they don't have permanent facilities, they can't do that any other way unless they do the special events permitting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, with the conditions of approval, and then things would be evaluated at the special event permit.
My next question, has anyone, or recently have we given a multi-year special events permit for multiple years in a row?
I'm not aware of that we have. We typically, we actually don't, I believe that we don't do that. We just changed our process where people can copy an application from the previous year and just make slight changes to it, but they can't apply for multiple years.
Jenny, would you like to add to that?
I was just going to say we don't accept permits until a certain point in time, so we wouldn't accept a permit for multiple years.
Thank you. That's what I thought. Okay. My next question is, I don't see anything in the appeal that we talked about music or noise. That would be part of the special event permit application. Is that true? So that's not even something we have even thought about or talked about. We're talking about those criteria, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the timing, sometimes we put in conditions. I'm trying to help here. So I know you know these answers. I'm trying to help to get through this. The conditions and the timing is to help because we are making an appeal with the 30 days for the season and letting this the total number. And I appreciate you pointing that out, that they're not going over, they're just asking for them all to be in one instead of the whole year. And so they're not going beyond what we normally allow in a year anyway. But this is about being very clear about hours of operation and how this works, and also making so that we don't come into a situation, as I said, setting everything up for success by spelling out specifically. And if that's the conditions from the referral agency, we need to really list those. They don't put those on there arbitrarily. So I'm curious. That we put conditions of approval, especially on some of these appeals, to help kind of make the application so staff can feel that it meets all the criteria. Would that be a fair assumption or statement on my part?
Yes, Commissioner. I think also if the appeal gets approved, kind of those days, times, specifics can carry forward to any special event permits if those are approved.
That's helpful. Thank you for bringing that up. My next question is, where was it? Sorry. The 11th one that we talked about with Frank, just kind of, I think mostly just to be clear about the expectations, and as you said, it moves on and will carry on for the special event permit. Just helps everyone understand there's, because that's one thing we're doing these new regulations is trying to be, some folks don't follow, and we need some consequences or some clear, and such, even though it's in the code, this would be something we could put in the appeal just to be clear for everyone.
Commissioner, we do have some proposed language for that addition, if that I think I pulled up.
Great. And back to, well, I think actually that was my last one. I just wanted to get back to why we're here. It was for the, yeah, so that's very straightforward and nothing extra. It's something that's there, but just be clear in stating it. I think that's fair. Thank you. So, so I think we go back to all the criteria again. Great. And there's, thank you. All right. Thank you for that. Commissioner Stevens, did you have another question?
I'm not sure. I mean, one of the things that, I heard clearly from the applicant was that, 3, 4, and 5 would be really difficult. And so I'm trying to, I know we're trying to treat everybody similarly, and I do agree with that. And I do think that, as we look to the future for permitting, that there are some sort of unique businesses that operate in rural areas. And what does that look like? And what does it look like to accommodate that? So I guess I would just ask for us to think about that. We've thought about that for, agricultural business, for example. So I just wanted to sort of say that, I guess to Leah, my question is that if we were to strike, the non-rafting patrons from 4, is there a lot of concerns about health concerns if that were to be stricken from that condition of approval?
No, that is more just following the special exception. That's not a health really code. We just have to make sure that as part of their daily operations, they have adequate facilities for sanitation purposes. And currently the house septic system is undersized. Even if they could use it, we'd have to upgrade that. That's why the vaulted toilets were mentioned back in 2001. But the non-rafting versus rafting, we just need a total number of people and we figure out the size to accommodate.
And at one point were you saying that like porta potty kind of situation could not be is not a sort of acceptable to have on a daily basis?
Right. It's more to support temporary services for a day.
Madam Chair, may I just add one bit of information?
Yep.
I was able to look, and it appears that the restrooms in the residence are not ADA accessible according to building code. So that is one of the reasons why I think there's an issue with using them.
But if the doors were...
I'm sorry, did I miss your hand, Commissioner? Go ahead.
Is there a way that's cost effective that we can address that ADA compliance?
I think it goes back to the general concern that that building was never permitted for commercial use.
But don't we have non-conforming uses? and therefore if something's been operating for so long in a certain way that they need to do an as-built permit or whatever it's called?
I don't know that it was ever permitted to operate commercially to start with, to grandfather it in as a non-conforming use, unfortunately.
May I ask a question? Leah, as you understand it, the septic system is not built to handle more than what was approved for the house. It's undersized. It could not handle, it would have to be increase and what you had said, it had been specially designed to allow for the road for it to be yeah.
It's a 3-bedroom house, and the septic field was updated to accommodate a 3-bedroom house. So that's like a 450 gallon per day flow, and technically with like about 100 to 150 rafting patrons, excluding employees, that is at least 750 plus that would be needed per day to support the business daily. So yes, the size. We've looked at some of the potential, maybe even just disconnecting the house and maybe using the septic to support a separate structure, but we wouldn't be able to.
Thank you for clarifying that. Frank, I was wondering, did you get to look up the public licensor idea? Because I kind of did a quick Google search. It sounds like it for private events they can not serve to the public. If it's special event, would that be considered?
I assume you're talking about the liquor license?
Just because that was brought up.
Well, I think if I'm understanding sort of what's going on is that the applicant is saying we have to be open for everybody if we're open at all, because that's what our liquor license says. I think that condition 4 maybe has just confused things a little bit, and that we don't need to have it in there. We don't have any ability to control what their liquor license says or doesn't say. The question before the board now is, should they have more than 3 days of special events in a year, and should they be allowed to do it? Those are the criteria that are getting appealed, is 7.2.2, and which says you only get 3 on the property per year, and 7.2.4, which says that you can't have more than 1 special event per month. Those are the only 2 criteria that are getting appealed right now. That doesn't really have anything to do with the liquor license.
Thank you. That's what I was hoping that you would get back to. Thank you. Commissioner Stevens, any further questions?
I'm ready for deliberation, I think.
Commissioner Kafalis, any more questions?
Regarding the 11th condition of approval that was suggested, didn't you say earlier this evening, Samantha, that currently that provision is in Article 7 of our land use code? And if that is the case, why would we need to add that as a condition of approval?
It is currently in Article 7 of the Land Use Code, and it's up to the commissioners if they want to add it as an additional condition here. It would apply with special event permits. I think this additional question also talks about kind of revocation of this appeal, which is probably not addressed in Article 7. So this covers a little bit more.
And I was just adding that just to be clear about things. So, okay, Commissioner Stevens, why don't you start with deliberation?
Okay, so first of all, I am inclined to support this appeal for sure. I think that, on the recommendation of staff and feel like they've hosted things in compliance in the past, I think that this appeal is reasonable. So I'll just start with that. Not really interested in adding condition number 11. In my opinion, it feels overly punitive, and it's already in the code, so I don't necessarily have a desire to add that. I also guess that I want to say with regard to the conditions of appeal, I would be in favor of striking no non-rafting patrons allowed on site, part of 4. And then I guess I would just like to say to staff, and it sounds like you've been working with the applicants, and so this is not intended to be in any kind of way, but like, how do we help folks in this scenario? Like, is my plea is sort of that, like, this is a good business that's, tried to follow the rules, and I think that we need to figure out a way to help them be in compliance. And I think that a business operation that operates sort of in the summer, basically summer months, not year round, has community support, has neighbor support, like, it seems like there is a solution. And I guess that was my frustration in starting, deliberations. I don't know what questions to ask anymore. I don't know what conditions to put onto this. All I know is it feels like important to get this right, and I don't think we have it exactly right yet. So that's just sort of my plea out there, is to, like, let's see where we can find a solution in scenarios that are sort of a what's square peg in a round hole kind of scenarios, because I think that this maybe is not the only business like this, and that these are businesses that are good for our community that we want to stay open. And so I will, all that to say, I'll be supporting the application, would like to take off the no non-rafting patrons on 4, and look for solutions in the future, both for this scenario and for other scenarios that are similar. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. Commissioner Kafash, your deliberation comments.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So basically, I concur with what I just heard from Commissioner Stevens. Based on the discussion, based on everything tonight, and I will go through this actually. I think the 5 criteria have been met based on what staff has indicated. The only thing I would add to, and I would support removing condition number 4 and not adding condition number 11. I think the only thing I would add that gets back to maybe a subjective comment that is not part of this objective review criteria is, how do we, the reason we're doing this for 1 year is because we'll have new special events regulations, land use code as of January 1st of next year. And my understanding and the conversations we've had with staff is that we are trying to find a way to not try to put a square peg into a round hole, and figure out if there can be some level of flexibility when it comes to commercial, long-standing businesses that have been in this community. So I wanted to add that. But going back to the right review criteria, because it's very important that we do our best to be objective. The first one is approval of the appeal will not subvert the purpose of the standard or requirement. And I'm quoting from the staff report. The applicant has hosted special event permits for outdoor music open to the public previously in compliance with all the special event permit standards and without incidents. And that's part of their comments suggesting that review criterion A has been met. Looking at B, approval of the appeal will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or property values in the neighborhood. We've heard from a lot of folks who recognize this is not only a business, a small business, but also a community building, a gathering place. And here it says, granting this appeal to allow the applicants to apply to host special events would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or property values. It would allow the applicant to apply for a special event permit, hopefully one permit, that will be individually reviewed for compliance. C, approval of the appeal is the minimum action necessary. Quoting, while granting this appeal does not grant the property approval of the special event permits approval, it will allow them to move forward and try to work through those issues. D, approval of the appeal will not result in increased costs to the general public. Approving the appeal to allow the applicants to apply for special event permits should not result in any costs to the public because it is not an approval of the event itself, which would still need to meet the requirements for special events. And then, of course, E, approval of the appeal is consistent with the intent and purpose of the code, and it indicates why that conclusion was drawn. Therefore, I will support the appeal in agreement with what Commissioner Stevens said about removing number 4 and not adding number 11.
Are you finished, Commissioner Gonzalez?
I could go on, but I think folks are getting tired. I think I am finished, actually. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking. I am. Yes.
First, I want to thank staff for finding a pathway to help with a unique situation. As you stated, Samantha, I think you've had some really important conversations, and I appreciate, and you, Leah, as well. There's a lot of history here, and you guys had to sort through a lot. And I want to thank you, commend you for trying to find ways to help this with this. And you did recommend approval of this with these conditions. And I want to thank you, Lee, and your team, because that's the big part of this is the public health and sanitation. And it's not something we can just say, oh, don't have to do that, because that's kind of also law. And also, it's why we have some of these rules. Otherwise, and the reason that I suggested number 11 is because not these folks, but other folks, I'm just trying to get that consistent, because we have a lot of folks, not a lot, but there's more than a handful that they get approvals and don't follow through and don't follow the conditions. And we don't have a mechanism to hold them to account or to have a fine or anything like that. So that's the reason I'm concerned about it, because it does impact wildlife, wildfire risk. I'm sure you all love seeing our watersheds burn down, and also just impacts neighbors who don't want things like this, some of these things. But I'm not talking about this location. I just wanted to explain why sometimes it's important to understand some of the reasons. And the reasons that we're looking at the code, it's not just for commercial businesses, it's because we need to have some kind of accountability for folks who get special event permits and then don't follow the rules. I think you all would want the rules to be followed by everyone equally and fairly. I do look at this letter from the Community Development Director in 2019. It was very clear about what was allowed and not allowed and kind of the conditions. So this is not a new thing. This is something that has been trying to be addressed for a long time. As Frank our assistant county attorney had said, there is these criteria, and that's what we're here today to follow and see if they met the criteria. And staff have made a very good arguments along with the conditions of approval that were really important to be able to fit that. So definitely, the section 6.7.2.b.5 for criteria for appeals to deviate from the standards or requirements other than minimum lot size requirements. And so this is several of those appeals under that is A, approval of the appeal will not subvert the purpose of the standard or requirement, and that was addressed. And approval of this appeal, according to staff, would not subvert the purpose of the standard requirement, along as provided by the applicant, along with the staff recommended conditions of approval. And that the proposal will then comply with your criterion. B is approval of the appeal will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or property values. And this is really important because public health is sanitation, and having appropriate solid waste and sanitation conditions are something everyone, whether a small business or large business, needs to follow. And that's why we have some guidelines and regulations in place. I call them protections most of the time. Approval of the appeal is the minimum action necessary. And I think that, again, you've said this is found a way to bring the 30 together, and it's appealing so they can have this different structure for the short season. And I appreciate that creative thinking that you worked with the applicant to come to that decision as well, as I understand it. D is the approval of the appeal will not increase public cost. to the general public. And this definitely meets that criteria, and approval of the appeal is consistent with the intent and purpose of the code. And so I think it will need to be reviewed, and with the input for the special application, so event permit, which is the current ones, not the ones we're working on. And I do think I took very seriously the review agency comments. So again, I want to thank the Larimer County Health Department for their comments. It's really important that we follow those, because it is important for public health. I do feel I appreciate you all being here, but I hope you understand we're only here for two criteria and those conditions. We're not about any of those other things that you talked about. I can very much hear how passionate you are about this business. Again, I'm a big small business fan. I could name probably 3 dozen that I know and patronize on a daily basis or weekly basis for sure. I try to. And then I see all of these comments, and so I just wanted to make sure folks understand the process and why we're here and how we're doing it, and how we're trying to go forward and find a legitimate and appropriate pathway forward. So with that, I can say that I do think they met with the criterion that as stated by staff, and I do think the conditions of approval are extremely important, but I can let go of number 11 only because I remind myself it's only for 1 year approval. So this appeal will be done at the end of the year. But the other one is important, that it will be applied and understood for the special event permit. So I really want to make sure that stays there. Commissioner Stevens, in response to your request to remove number 4, I don't see any objections from staff. And so I think the number is the issue, is making sure that the system, the amount of porta parties and the amount of folks that we heard from members of the public that they don't think they've ever seen 300 people there. So I can support your recommendation, Commissioner Stevens, and the rest I do think are important to help the applicant meet the rest of the criteria. So with that, I will be supporting this application based on the applicant meeting the criteria and the conditions of approval in the land use application minus number 4. So, Commissioner Kafalis, I ask you respectfully to read the motion on the screen, please, so we can end deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Mountain Whitewater and Paddlers Pub Appeal, file number 25, GNRL 0583, subject to the conditions in the staff report, with condition number 4 removed.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. We are now adjourned for our land use hearing, and thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a good evening.